Chapter-341-360 The Hell. Near the Konoha temporary scout base, in the forest several kilometers away from the low mountain, a middle-aged ninja with white eyes squatted on a tree, with a blade of grass in his mouth, looking around at will. Hyuga Tachi, 34 years old this year, is a Jonin from the Hyuga clan in Konoha village, serving in the Konoha Independent Scout Unit. As a member of the Hyuga tribe, although the strength of Hyuga Tachi is not outstanding among Jonin, Byakugan has a strong ability, and when he launches Byakugan with all his strength, he can see the situation 6 kilometers away. Silent for a long time. Hyuga Tachi guessed that the time was up, raised his head and glanced around in a wide range, then folded his hands, and his eyes were wrinkled. Byakugan open. Night cannot stop Byakugan's prying eyes. In the eyes of Hyuga Tachi, the whole event became blurred, turned into black and white, and the scenery of everything was outlined by lines. He maintained Byakugan, peeping through the situation several kilometers away, slowly turning his head after just turning a small angle, it suddenly stopped. He saw 3 people, jumping close. Hyuga Tachi blinked, the whole person seemed to be stunned, squatting on the tree motionless. After a long time in a trance, he came back to his senses, and whispered, "Patriarch." Hyuga Haeyoung, Lu Han, and Orochimaru jumped forward in front, middle and back. The closer they got to the temporary stronghold, the less they could leave traces, because this place is not far from the southwest mountains. If there are too many traces, it is very likely that expose the base. "He's here." Lu Han suddenly spoke hoarsely and glanced at Hyuga Haeyoung's back. "I found us a few kilometers away, it should be Hyuga Ninja." "That's good, it seems. The stronghold is still there." Hyuga Haeyoung replied with a sigh of relief. Soon, the 3 of Lu Han had stopped and stood on the same extremely thick tree branch. The 3 of them felt someone approaching, there was sound, and there was breath. Whoa! Wearing a Konoha-style ninja uniform jumped out of the grass, fell under the tree, knelt down on one knee and exclaimed excitedly, "See the Patriarch." During the mission he should be called Captain Hyuga Haeyoung, but he was excited cannot control themselves. "Well, get up, is everything okay in the stronghold?" Hyuga Haeyoung said solemnly, but showed a faint smile. "It's all good." Hyuga Taki got up and responded, looked up at both sides of Hyuga and Haeyoung, and bowed his head again to greet him respectfully. "I've seen Lord Hangguang, Lord Orochimaru." He knew all 3 of them, because they all went there past the temporary scout outpost. Orochimaru kept his face expressionless. "Is Lord Danzo here?" Lu asked coldly. "In. Take us there." "Yes." Before the early morning of that day, the long-missing Anbu Deputy Captain Han Guang, the Konoha Independent Scout Team Captain Hyuga Haeyoung, and Hokage's own disciple Orochimaru secretly returned to the Konoha temporary scout base located on the southeastern border of the Fire Country. The cave command room. The candle was lit, emitting enough light to brighten the surroundings of the desk. Danzo was sitting behind the desk. There was a map on the table, covered with various marks, and Danzo was still watching with the information scroll in his hand. "Can't sleep at night. The recent situation has become more and more strange. As the commander-in-chief of Konoha's army in the land of Vortex, Danzo has to deal with too many things. He has to look at a lot of information. He has not been so busy for a long time. It has been many days. Go to rest, he wants to break the game, but it's hard." Damn, Uzumaki shocked the sea. Danzo looked at the information in his hand, bit Kiba and muttered. "Uzumaki has been a little disobedient recently. Originally, when the commander was transferred, he had to listen to Konoha, and the Uzushiogakure Corps could just listen to the deployment, but recently, for some reason, Uzumaki has a lot of thoughts, and he often ignores the orders issued by Danzo. Danzo can feel that Uzumaki Jinghai has dissent, but he can't be sure what Uzumaki Jinghai is going to do. Uzumaki Jinghai may be to reduce the losses of Uzushiogakure ninjas in the war, so that Konoha ninjas will lose more. Danzo cannot tolerate this kind of thing. This is the country of Vortex. Konoha is helping the village of Uzushiogakure fight against Kurigakure, and the Uzushiogakure Corps should be at the forefront. There is no reason for Konoha to lose more. Konoha ninjas are ninjas from the land of fire, not from the land of vortex. Dong dong. The knock on the door suddenly sounded. Huh. Danzo frowned, looked up at the door and said, "What's wrong? It's so late that no one should bother you. Ninjas also need to rest." Asleep, only a small number of scout ninjas are watching outside the stronghold. Lord Danzo, yes. Hyuga-Tachi's voice sounded outside the door. Clap clap. Before Hyuga-Tachi could finish speaking, the door was pushed open. Luhan, wearing a mask, was the first to enter, followed by Hyuga Heian and Orochimaru. Danzo's eyes widened quickly and he stood up abruptly, hitting the table so violently that it shook and creaked. His face was full of ghostly expressions, his neck seemed to be a little stiff, only his eyeballs moved, and his eyes swept over the three of them in turn. Lord Danzo. Both Hyuga Heian and Orochimaru greeted Danzo respectfully, only Luhan. He really didn't bother to be polite to Danzo. Although he has eased his relationship with Danzo now, Luhan never thought that Danzo was a person who could have a deep friendship. This guy, the city is too deep, it is better to keep a distance. Lord Danzo, I haven't rested so late. Luhan said lightly, walking to the desk. You. Danzo seemed dumbfounded. At the same time, there is a wide cave in the depths of the stronghold, a training ground. Bang! Tsunade slapped Hyuga Luoning on the shoulder and knocked Hyuga Luoning out. Let's be here today, it's late at night, Tsunade said. Breathing heavily, Hyuga Luoning rubbed his shoulders, turned over and jumped up, and said with a small face, Master Tsunade, you can go back first, I'm not tired. Don't be in a hurry at this time. Tsunade looked at Hyuga Luoning with a much gentler expression. Go back and rest well, so that you can practice better. I'm really not tired, Hyuga Luoning repeated, her face stubborn. Hey, Tsunade sighed, then paused and asked, do you know why I hit you on the left shoulder? Chapter 0342 Are they familiar? Because you have a flaw in your left shoulder, but you didn't realize it. Time and time again, that flaw has been there, you are blind, and your heart is messed up. Tsunade shook his head gently, you just want to calm down. Cultivation, this kind of practice, not to say that it is completely futile, but it has little effect. It is not that you can grow as long as you are willing to endure hardships. At the very least, you need to calm down and immerse your heart in the practice. Quote. I see. Hyuga Luoning lowered her head, then knelt down and lowered her head lower. Please teach me, Lord Tsunade. It's not that I can't teach you, but now is not the time. Tsunade sighed. Get up, go back first. Hyuga Luoning was still kneeling on the ground, her head bowed, and she didn't speak. Tsunade's face turned cold, then helpless, with a complicated expression. Other Jonin, no matter who they are, how dare they do this to her? Hyuga Luoning dares. She is very stubborn, and Tsunade can't bear to say anything about Hyuga Luoning, maybe because the two have said too many things about Han, which makes her stubborn. The two share a sense of closeness to each other, and so much has happened recently. Even if Tsunade doesn't feel the same way as Hyuga Luoning, it's not much different. Tsunade's heart is very kind, and the current Hyuga Luoning is distressing. Get up, I'll teach you something today, you can go back and figure it out for yourself. Tsunade sighed. Temporary base, command room. Luhan, Hyuga Heian, and Orochimaru are reporting the situation to Danzo. In fact, Luhan is mainly talking, and the others have nothing to say. Hyuga Heian has been imprisoned before, and Orochimaru was separated from Tsunade and Jiraiya. He has been healing and killed some people in Kurigakure. After both of them reunited with Luhan, something happened that should be explained. Naturally, Luhan should talk about these things. However, Luhan said it very briefly, because he did not need to report to Danzo. As the deputy captain of Anbu, Luhan has only two people to report to. One is the captain of Anbu, White Fang, another is Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen. He may or may not be dead. My guess is the latter. Although I watched him burn to death, it feels very strange. Luhan said indifferently, I personally can't be sure. Has Boiling Yu been killed? I wonder if Danzo knows whether Boiling Yu is a master or something that involves the profound meaning of life and death. Quote. Luhan can be completely sure that Boiling Yu is not dead, but he can't figure out why Boiling Yu is not dead, he can only guess. There is not much information about Boiling Rain. During the last war in the ninja world, he showed all kinds of evil abilities, and now, after all, more than 10 years have passed. It's hard to say. Danzo shook his head, his eyes always staring at Luhan. The shock in his heart still hadn't calmed down. The more Luhan said, the more turbulent his heart became. Find the wounded Orochimaru. Rescue Hyuga Heian in Kurigakure base camp. Kill the leader of the Kurigakure scout force, Commander Mundogen. Kill Kurigakure Mizukage to help Boiling Rain. This one thing is all thanks to God. Adding these credits together is unimaginable. Even though Danzo knew that Han Guang's method was psychic, and he had repeatedly performed extraordinary feats, he was still shocked this time. He even felt that he might no longer be Han Guang's opponent. It has only been more than a year, and the strength has grown from nothing to the current level. Such a growth rate, Danzo really can't understand it. He used to suspect that there is a problem with the cold, and now he still thinks that there is a problem with the cold, but he says no. Find out what the problem is. By the way, there's something. Luhan changed his words. Lord Danzo, Tsunade. Is she still here? Looking at the insight map, there were blue dots in the entire stronghold. Luhan couldn't confirm whether Tsunade was here, but he hoped Tsunade was here. Yes. Danzo nodded. Okay, I'll go first. Luhan suddenly stood up from his chair. You guys talk. Hey, wait, you haven't made it clear. Danzo suddenly stood up and said urgently. Just now, Luhan gave the general situation, but he didn't give any details. He only said when he did what he did, not how he did it. Lord Danzo, I will report the specific situation to Lord Hokage. You should know the rules. Luhan said indifferently. Danzo was suffocated, unable to say a word. Han Guang didn't give any face at all, and what he said was very reasonable. Luhan really didn't need to report to Danzo in detail. Call. Seeing that Danzo didn't say anything, Luhan disappeared in the office with hand seal. Orochimaru and Hyuga Heian glanced at each other, and their reactions were very different. Orochimaru was surprised because he knew Hangguang's true identity, but Hyuga Heian was different. In his eyes, Anbu's deputy captain, Hangguang, his identity is mysterious and his strength is terrifying. Even if he loses Danzo's face, it is not incomprehensible. Tell me again, I need to give a detailed report to Lord Hokage. Danzo sat down again and said as usual. After Luhan left the office, he moved around the stronghold again and again. He was looking for Tsunade. He knew that Tsunade must be worried. People are still easy to find, because Tsunade's aura is very unique. Luhan avoids other people, and with his strength, no one can find him. He doesn't want to meet acquaintances, so he will have to greet and talk again. Words, wasting time. Now, he just wants to find Tsunade first. Inside the gym. Just remember what I taught you just now, go back and think about it more. Tsunade looked at Hyuga Luoning. You also have to keep in mind that a lot of times, flaws. Not necessarily wrong, the real skill-type experts in art will use flaws as traps. You see my flaws and you will attack my flaws, and if I know my flaws, I can seize the best opportunity to fight back, understand? Understood, thank you Tsunade-sama. Hyuga Luoning nodded. It's really time to rest. Tsunade forced a smile, his face suddenly condensed, as if he felt something. Distant passage. Luhan leaned against the stone wall holding his shoulders and tilted his head to look at the two people on the field. He had been watching for a while, and his eyes were a little strange. Are they familiar? Chapter 0343-Hate for Love. Hyuga Luoning had already planned to go back, but found that Tsunade's face was a little wrong, and asked suspiciously, Master Tsunade, you. What's the matter? Tsunade's eye circles were slightly yuhi. Hearing Hyuga Luoning's question, he quickly raised his hand to wipe the corner of his eyes, forced a smile, and pretended to be strong and said, No, it's nothing. Did you miss him? Hyuga Luoning said a lot more carefully, and her face suddenly became a little ugly. She was immersed in thinking about cultivation under the guidance of Tsunade before, and she forgot about other things. Because Tsunade remembered those. Well, I miss him. Tsunade admitted frankly, smiling reluctantly, but seemed to cry, I always feel that he is back. Many times, I wake up in my sleep, I thought he was back, but no. I'm actually scared to hear about him because I'm afraid. It's going to be bad news, but that's fine, at least, it gives me hope. Sir Tsunade, please stop talking. Hyuga Luoning covered her mouth and lowered her head with choked sobs. Seeing Hyuga Luoning like this, Tsunade sniffed, took 2 steps forward and hugged Hyuga Luoning in his arms, stroked Hyuga Luoning's back, and whispered in his ear, Do you hate him? I don't know. Hyuga Luoning shook her head vigorously. Hey, Luhan, who was leaning against the wall at the entrance of the passage, couldn't listen anymore, and said weakly, Did someone say I'm dead again? Why are you doing this? Weeping here in the middle of the night, not afraid haunted. Tsunade and Hyuga Luoning, who were hugging each other, stopped at once as if struck by lightning, and then suddenly raised their heads and looked in the direction of the sound. Luhan in front of the passageway raised the mask in his hand. His delicate face was full of smiles, but the circles around his eyes belonged to Yuhi. Cold, Tsunade exclaimed in disbelief. Well, it's me, not a dream, not a hallucination, Mr. Tsunade, wow, you're beautiful again. Luhan, who was still wearing a tattered black robe, pretended to be relaxed. Call. Wind blew, Tsunade flashed to Luhan and looked at Luhan's face excitedly. Hold. Luhan opened his arms and took a step forward at the same time as Tsunade. The two hugged tightly. Tsunade didn't cry this time, but Yuhi squinted in his eyes, and kept murmuring in Luhan's ear. I just believe that you will come back, you will definitely come back, definitely. Well, I'm back, I'm so tired. Luhan's voice was full of exhaustion all of a sudden. He was really tired, but outside, the tense nerve didn't dare to relax at all. Only here, he felt at ease. Like a boat traveling in the storm day and night, and finally found a peaceful harbor. Woo, woo woo. I don't know when the crying sounded. Luhan and Tsunade both raised their heads and looked in the direction from which the crying came. Seeing Hyuga Luoning squatting on the ground and crying, she was sad. This girl, do you miss me that much? Luhan blinked. Go and comfort her, maybe. Tsunade didn't go on, she didn't know what to say, feeling guilty because of the cold. Hey, what's wrong with you? Luhan appeared in front of Hyuga Luoning. He was in a good mood, so he didn't take it seriously, but smiled, Do you want a hug? Come on, I can give it to you. Quote. Luhan opened his arms to Hyuga Luoning. Hyuga Luoning's cry stopped and turned to sobbing. She raised her head and looked at Luhan with tears in her eyes. The big eyes with teardrops on their eyelashes blinked and stood up abruptly, looking at Luhan in front of her. Breathing became rapid. Hold, Luhan asked again with open arms. Bastard. Hyuga Luoning let out a high decibel scream very suddenly. The whole person was excited to ultimate, raised his hand and punched Luhan's cheek. Luhan's face changed, and he raised his hand to lightly hold the fist from Hyuga Luoning, his palm aching slightly. What are you doing? Luhan was a little stunned, but Hyuga Luoning suddenly attacked. But this is not the key is that she is still a green name. If there is malice towards Luhan, no matter what color his previous name was, as long as he attacks Luhan, he will become Yuhi. Hyuga Luo Ning's current situation is that she is malicious to Lu Han. She has no strength to hurt Lu Han, but attacked Lu Han. So Lu Han couldn't understand, what was this lady doing? Asshole, 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 asshole. Hyuga Luo Ning pulled his hand back and smashed his fist at Lu Han again, really hitting hard. But Lu Han was much stronger than her, so her attacks had no effect on Lu Han, and they were all easily blocked by Lu Han. Hey hey hey, you're sick. Fuck. Damn girl. Don't blame me if you don't stop. Lu Han shouted in response to Hyuga Luo Ning's little fist. Tsunade watched from the side. Her face was very complicated. She understood Hyuga Luo Ning. Really understood, so she didn't stop it. Maybe let Hyuga Luo Ning vent and feel better. Bastard, Hyuga Luo Ning, I warn you. What the hell are you doing? Lu Han yelled and scared Hyuga Luo Ning. Hyuga Luo Ning is still a green name, so Lu Han can't really do anything to Hyuga Luo Ning, but he really want to know, what happened to Hyuga Luo Ning? Hate for love. Bastard. Hyuga Luo Ning jumped away suddenly, moved back away from Lu Han, stared at Lu Han's eyes with tears in his eyes. I won't forgive you. You bastard. Bastard. Finally, after scolding Lu Han, Hyuga Luo Ning ran away crying. With a confused expression, Lu Han watched Hyuga Luo Ning run into the passageway, until he could no longer see Hyuga Luo Ning. He turned his head to look at Tsunade, blinked twice, seeing Tsunade's complicated expression, he hurriedly shouted, I swear, I never gave up on her. It's not messed up yet. His father is going to die. Tsunade walked over to Lu Han and said. What? Lu Han was stunned for a moment. He looked fine 10 minutes ago, why is he going to die? Her father, Hyuga Haeyoung, and Kurigakure have already walked the news and will publicly execute Hyuga Haeyoung. Tsunade looked into Lu Han's eyes, it's because of you. Chapter 0344_woman, do you miss me? According to the information spread by Kurigakure, they are in revenge for what you did during the prisoner exchange negotiation, so they publicly executed Hyuga Haeyoung. This is revenge and a warning. Tsunade, who was still wearing Yuhi's eyes, looked a little uneasy. Excellent. It was hard for her to say some words. Lu Han did break the rules, but she couldn't blame it. Public execution of Hyuga Haeyoung? Lu Han asked with a strange tone. His heart moved, and asked, when did it happen? When did the news come out? Lu Han can be sure that Kurigakure did not spread fake news, because it was public execution. Unlike direct executions, public executions, there will be witnesses at that time, and even Konoha can send a delegation to watch. Public executions cannot be falsified, nor are they necessary. In the past few days, the news has completely spread. Tsunade frowned slightly, very worried. According to the calculation, the news came from the base camp of the Kurigakure Corps camp, and it is estimated that the decision was made 5 or 6 days ago. And spread the word out. Quote. 5 or 6 days ago. Lu Han suddenly understood. Lu Han took Hyuga Haeyoung out of the Kurigakure base 5 or 6 days ago. In this way, Boiling You should have really decided to execute Hyuga Haeyoung at that time, and had already sent people to spread the news. Lu Han rescued him, Hyuga Haeyoung, after that. This is not fake news. It's not a misunderstanding either. However, at this time, Kurigakure has been unable to withdraw the news of the public execution of Hyuga Haeyoung. They are still concealing the news of Boyu's death, and they dare not mention the matter of Hangwang's rescue of Hyuga Haeyoung. You know, this girl, she's in pain. Tsunade sighed. Actually she misses you too, and now you're back. But her father, maybe, you should really apologize to her and not beg her. Forgive you, but at least you have to let her know what you think. Apologize. Forget it. This bastard girl actually attacked me. She should apologize to me. Lu Han shrugged and winked at Tsunade. Apologize to you. Tsunade looked at Lu Han strangely, unable to understand Lu Han's logic. She will. Lu Han smiled, and the conversation changed again. Let's not talk about this, Mr. Tsunade, should you care and ask about my situation. I'm so sad if you don't ask anything. Humph. You bastard, I don't care about you. My heart hurts. Oops, it really hurts. You ran away without saying hello, such a dangerous thing, why don't you? Tsunade looked fierce, but he took Lu Han's arm and walked side by side with Lu Han to the entrance. The two came all the way to the rest area of Anbu Ninja. There are two residential areas in this stronghold, one belongs to the Independent Scout Unit, and the other belongs to Anbu. Tsunade usually lives on Anbu's side. Tsunade's residence, a medium-sized cave room. As soon as Lu Han sat down on the wooden couch, he lay down on his back and stretched his waist. Tsunade lit the candlestick on the cabinet before returning to the wooden couch and sitting beside Lu Han. I'm tired, why don't you take a rest today and talk about it tomorrow? Tsunade said with some distress when he saw Lu Han lying unwilling to move. Let's chat, I miss Mr. Tsunade so much. Lu Han tilted his head and looked at Tsunade with a smile. Did you miss me? Tsunade lay down on his side, holding his head on his side, thinking of something. Fei Yuhi flashed across her cheek. Both of them were lying on the wooden couch, very close to each other. Lu Han suddenly turned over, also lying on his side, with his hands on his side of his head, facing Tsunade, looking at Tsunade's beautiful eyes, paused, and asked softly, Woman, do you miss me? Don't call me a woman. You bastard. Tsunade looked fierce again, but his cheeks were slightly Yuhi. A very strange emotion floated in Tsunade's heart, which made her very distressed. What's your name, Mr. Tsunade? Lu Han grabbed Tsunade's hand and held it in the palm of his hand. Tsunade struggled for a while, but did not pull it away. Lu Han still looked into Tsunade's eyes. If you like, I'll call you Tsunade. Teacher, then I'll keep calling. Bastard, bastard. Tsunade panicked. Her heartbeat quickened, her eyes flickered, and she quickly changed the subject. Tell me about you, how did you escape? It's very complicated. Oh right, is Lord Jiraiya back? Lu Han suddenly remembered and asked. Normally, as long as Jiraiya didn't die in the southwest mountain range before, he should have escaped back. Well, I'm back. Tsunade nodded, and even though he looked worried, the smile on his face was forced a lot. That's Orochimaru hasn't heard from him yet, I'm afraid he's already. Lu Han's face was strange for a moment, but he held back and said nothing. If I tell Tsunade now that Orochimaru has returned, Tsunade must rush to find Orochimaru, and then Jiraiya will definitely know that Lu Han just came back and just wants to communicate more with Tsunade, and doesn't want anyone to disturb him. Tsunade doesn't know now, and he will know tomorrow. Don't judge someone's life or death lightly, it's like, I came back alive, right? Lu Han held Tsunade's hand, said softly, and squeezed lightly with his hand. Yes, you're back, so will he. Tsunade's face was a little unnatural, she was a little regretful. Why did she want to lie down on her side? Actually, it's nothing, but the two were mentors and apprentices before, but now, although they are also mentors and apprentices, Tsunade has already sensed Lu Han's thoughts. The atmosphere is a bit wrong. Woman, did you know? I was on my way to escape before, and every night, I hid by myself, and I always think of you. Lu Han moved forward slightly, getting closer to Tsunade. Han, I miss you too, really, but, can you not, like this? Tsunade's voice trembled a little, because she felt that Lu Han had some bad intentions. Lu Han didn't speak anymore, moved forward again, looked at Tsunade's Pan Yuhi's cheek, and probed slightly. Han, you. Tsunade stretched out his hand and pressed Lu Han's shoulder, but he was very weak. Lu Han blinked slightly and was about to kiss Tsunade. Tsunade panicked to ultimate, and closed his eyes in fear. Chapter 0345-Bad Thoughts. Dong dong dong. Just when Lu Han was about to kiss Tsunade's lips, there was a loud slam on the door. Tsunade opened his eyes and pressed Lu Han's shoulder firmly, thinking of Jiraiya's voice outside the door. Tsunade. Tsunade. Are you there? Are you there? Jiraiya's voice was very eager, and it contained excitement. Fuck, Luhan scolded in a low voice in his heart, some going crazy. Almost. Reason why Luhan didn't tell Tsunade that Orochimaru had come back was because he didn't want to be disturbed. Taking advantage of the fact that he just came back to meet Tsunade, Tsunade was emotionally unstable and excited. Luhan wanted to take this opportunity to go further with Tsunade. It worked, but Jiraiya came knocking on the door. There is no doubt that Jiraiya was so emotional that he obviously knew that Orochimaru was back and came to tell Tsunade. Tsunade looked up at the door, then sat up all of a sudden, took a deep breath, trying to calm down her emotions quickly. She was still very flustered. Luhan immediately sat up, looked back at the door, and immediately looked at Tsunade. Dong dong dong. Jiraiya's voice sounded outside the door again. Aren't you there? Tsunade. Jiraiya didn't break into the room directly. If he was looking for someone else, he might have broken in directly, but not for Tsunade, because Tsunade is ladies. There will be problems in rushing around, if you see something you shouldn't see, with Tsunade's temper. Jiraiya doesn't want to be beaten to death. Tsunade took 2 deep breaths before getting up to answer. At this time, stood up faster than Tsunade, turned around and pressed Tsunade directly on the wooden couch, lowered his head and kissed Tsunade's lips lightly, the kind that Tanbo drinks, and immediately let go and quickly stood up again. Get up, take 2 steps back. To prevent being beaten. Tsunade was stunned, raised his hand to touch his lips in disbelief, sat up slowly, stared at Luhan with wide eyes, and his face quickly changed to Yuhi. Luhan looked at Tsunade with a daring look. In fact, he was very nervous, and if Tsunade's anger went out of control at this time, he might never have a chance again. Dong dong dong. Dong dong dong. Before Tsunade could get angry with Luhan, the door slammed again, and Jiraiya seemed to be dying. Tsunade, are you inside? Why don't you speak? Open the door. Jiraiya just heard a little movement. I'm here. Tsunade's attention was drawn to Jiraiya again, and he hurriedly responded, glared at Luhan angrily, and then walked to the door. Luhan breathed a sigh of relief. Front of the door, Tsunade opened the door. What's so urgent? Tsunade saw that Jiraiya had just opened her mouth, and her voice stopped abruptly. She noticed the cold figure standing behind Jiraiya, with long black hair and a pale face. It was Orochimaru. Orochimaru, you're back, Tsunade exclaimed, his eyes filled with tears for a moment, and he jumped up and hugged Orochimaru. Orochimaru was a little unnatural, he was not very good at hugging, and he was not very good at expressing his feelings. Cough. In the room, Luhan, who was walking slowly towards the door, coughed heavily. Tsunade and Orochimaru let go. Orochimaru smiled at Tsunade. Tsunade cried and laughed. Orochimaru looked into the room again, nodded to Luhan and said, Captain Hengwang is here too. Come and see Mr. Tsunade. Luhan replied, then took out the mask and put it on his face. You. Tsunade felt something was wrong. Orochimaru actually called Han Hengwang captain. And listening to the conversational tone, it seemed very familiar. Tsunade blinked, a light flashed in his mind, and asked dumbly, You came back together? Yeah. Orochimaru nodded and glanced at the room again. Captain Hengwang healed my wound. Tsunade suddenly turned his head to look at Luhan, stared at Luhan with wide eyes, and then screamed out, very angry, Han. You didn't tell me, haha. Luhan sighed 2 times. Bad Heart thought it was found by Tsunade. He dodged Tsunade's eyes, fast said, I still have something, you talk. Call. Luhan Zayan disappeared directly into the room. Tsunade looked at the location where Luhan disappeared. Kobo was about to be bitten, thinking about how to settle accounts with Luhan tomorrow. In the crisscrossed passages of the stronghold, the voices were noisy, many people were running, and there was a buzzing voice. Luhan left Tsunade's residence, appeared in the outside passage, and walked out along the passage. Of course he had nothing to do, he just wanted to go back to sleep. After turning a few times along the passage, he gradually heard some voices, frowned slightly, and disappeared in place. In the small square. Call. Luhan appeared out of thin air at the entrance of the passage. See Lord Hangguang. The more than 30 Anbu ninjas gathered in the small square knelt down on one knee at the same time, and an emotional greeting resounded, quite powerful. I know, Luhan said hoarsely. He was used to using a disguised voice when he was wearing a mask. With a glance, Luhan raised his hand again and said, everyone get up. It's late at night, everyone go back to rest, I have something to do. Say tomorrow, let's go. After Luhan finished speaking, he turned to the other side of the passage. More than 30 Anbu ninjas watched Luhan's back disappear into the passageway, and then began to discuss excitedly. It's really Lord Hangguang. He's back. I just met Orochimaru-sama just now. It seems that there is still Lord Haeyang. They all came back together. Lord Hangguang is really... It was still a dimly lit passage. Hyuga Haeyang stood in front of the door, feeling a little excited. He took 2 deep breaths to calm down and then raised his hand and knocked on the door. Dong dong dong. What's the matter? The girl's depressed voice sounded in the room. It's me, Hyuga said. Father. There was an unbelievable exclamation in the room, followed by the sound of wind, and then the door was suddenly opened. Hyuga Luo-ning stared at the middle-aged man outside the door and burst into tears. Jumped up. Father. Woo. Hyuga Luo-ning burst into tears. Chapter-341-360 He saved my father. Luhan walked in the passage unhurriedly, his mind fluctuating. He was thinking about 2 things. The first was Tsunade. Because of the age gap and the estrangement in identity, Luhan felt that he and Tsunade had enough feelings, but Tsunade had a hurdle in his heart that he couldn't get through. Han Xiang thought of Kato Dan, the guy who died in the Second Ninja War as Tsunade's first love in the original book. At present, Kato Dan and Tsunade are not familiar with each other, they just know each other. Luhan is considering whether to do something first. What? The second thing, Luhan is considering whether he can go further in his position after returning to Konoha. Now he is the deputy captain of Anbu, and he is the captain of Anbu. He has become Sarutobi Hiruzen's hardcore confidant and officially entered the core layer of Konoha power. Luhan naturally wants to be the captain of Anbu, but there is a roadblock in front of him, namely Hatake Sakumo. Either win Hatake Sakumo, or Hatake Sakumo voluntarily abdicate, otherwise Luhan can't become captain of Anbu. But whether it is the former or the latter, it seems to be very difficult. If you want to challenge the position of Captain Anbu, you must obtain the consent of Hokage. At this time, a local war has broken out in the ninja world, and a full-scale war may break out at any time. Sarutobi Hiruzen should be difficult to agree with. Luhan challenges Hatake Sakumo, and if Hatake Sakumo voluntarily abdicates. Unless something happens, it's impossible. It's really troublesome, it's so tiring. Luhan murmured as he walked. The reward for killing a level 55 diamond boss for the first time has not been counted, and I haven't had time yet, and I don't know how that harvest will give you. What an improvement I have brought, and Hiraishin, when I go back to Konoha, I have to retreat. Ooh. It's all right, dear girl. Everything is fine. Just after turning around a passageway, Luhan heard the girl's cry and the man's heavy comforting voice. He couldn't help but slow down a bit. Looking up, he saw that the door to the grotto room in front of Luhan's passage was open, and Hyuga Haeyang was hugging him. To comfort her crying daughter Hyuga Luo-ning. This girl, I didn't realize that she likes to cry before. Luhan muttered. In front of the cave room. It's alright, it's late at night, you go to rest first, don't cry so badly. Hyuga Haeyang looked down at her daughter and wiped her tears for Hyuga Luo-ning. Father, my daughter misses you. Really? Hyuga Luo-ning lowered her head and sobbed. Blah blah blah. As the footsteps approached, Hyuga Haeyoung turned his head and glanced at it, and immediately let go of his daughter, with a solemn expression, and then greeted with a faint smile, "Captain Hangwang." "Yeah." Lu Han, who was wearing a mask, nodded and replied hoarsely, "Lord Haeyoung. Have seen Tsunade?" "Yes, Jiraiya has also returned, all here." "That's good. If you want to come to Lord Hokage to get the news, your heart will be at ease." "That's for sure." Although Hyuga Haeyoung had seen Lu Han's face, he didn't know Lu Han's true identity, and naturally he couldn't know the relationship between Lu Han and Tsunade. When Hyuga Haeyoung entered the Southwest Mountains, he was looking for Tsunade. After he was arrested, Lu Han and Orochimaru went to rescue him. He naturally believed that Lu Han, the deputy captain of Anbu, was assigned by Lord Hokage to go to the Southwest Mountains. Save. Lu Han stopped beside Hyuga Haeyoung and chatted a few words with Hyuga Haeyoung. Hyuga Luo Ning, who was standing beside him, bowed his head and did not say a word, and did not greet Lu Han, but after listening to a few words, Hyuga Luo Ning felt that something was wrong. Why did the two seem to know each other so well? Her heart was in a mess, and many things couldn't be figured out all at once. "I have to thank Captain Hangwang again. If you hadn't risked your life to save me, I might have died in the Kurigakure camp. Boiling you tried to get information from me over and over again, but failed. It is estimated that patience is almost exhausted." Hyuga Haeyoung laughed. "Wherever you are, you and I are both Konoha ninjas, and we should help each other, both for the sake of the village and Lord Hokage. Besides, this is not my work alone," Lu Han said modestly. "Oh yes, Captain Hangwang, this is the little girl Luo Ning." Hyuga Haeyoung put one hand on Hyuga Luo Ning's shoulder, and his face smiled a little bit. "Captain Hangwang and the little girl are colleagues, so I don't need to introduce more." "What? The little girl is ignorant. She was very willful when she was not in Anbu before, and I hope Captain Hangwang will discipline her more." Saying that it is discipline means actually taking care of you, but this is not clearly stated. "Well, that's natural," Lu Han nodded. Hyuga Luo Ning had already raised her head when Hyuga Haeyoung said the words of saving people. At this time, she was staring at Lu Han with wide eyes, dumbfounded, as if she had lost her soul. Lu Han glanced at Hyuga Luo Ning, then looked at Hyuga Haeyoung and said, "Master Haeyoung, rest early." "Good." The two nodded to each other, and Lu Han turned around and walked deeper into the passage. Hyuga Luo stared at Lu Han's back, her body began to tremble, and her breath was short of excitement. "Luo Ning, why didn't you meet Captain Hangwang just now?" Hyuga Haeyoung glanced at his daughter and said dissatisfiedly, "Even if you are excited, you shouldn't forget Anbu's rules. He is your boss." Hyuga Luo Ning didn't seem to hear what Hyuga Haeyoung said, still looking in that direction, slowly raising her hand to cover her mouth, tears streaming down her face. "It was him. Did he save my father? For me, for me, for me. Why didn't he say it just now? Why didn't he say it? Why? Is he angry? Am I wrong?" The chaotic voice kept echoing in Hyuga Luo Ning's mind. Hyuga Luo Ning's heart was numb, and an unprecedented panic filled her heart. "What should I do?" Lu Han returned to the cave room where he lived before entering the Southwest Mountain Range. Because he had a weaving here, the room had not been moved. The furnishings inside were as clean as before he left, and someone cleaned them regularly. Sitting cross-legged on the wooden couch, although Lu Han came very much, he was not yet sleepy. "Whoa!" With a wave of his hand, hundreds of fallen objects filled the wooden couch. Drop reward for killing Mundogen. Because he had been with Hyuga Haeyoung, Orochimaru and others before, Lu Han didn't have a chance to count them, but now he's back here, he finally has a chance. Chapter 0347 _ a technique worth 420 ingots. Killing the level 55 diamond boss Mundogen for the first time allowed Lu Han to get more than 400 drops. Lu Han had only counted the scrolls of spiritual potions and S-rank and A-rank spells before, and there were still more than 350 drops that had not been counted. Normally, there are so many drops that the wooden couch cannot be placed. This time, it can be placed because many of the drops obtained by killing Mondogan are small things. Golden ingots, 180. Diamond badges, 30. Big Yuhi bottle, big blue bottle, 64 in total. These add up to 274 drops. 82 drops left. A total of 49 C-rank and B-rank ninjutsu scrolls. Most of them are B-level ninjutsu scrolls, because according to the drop rules, killing a hostile character of Mondogan's level will not drop garbage, which has nothing to do with the explosion rate, just like Luhan killed the elite Jonin won't drop bad kunai, and Luhan has already mastered too many C-level techniques before, not to mention C-level techniques, even B-level techniques are not very useful to him. 7 excellent weapons, 14 penultimate weapons, 2 rare weapons, 23 in total. 2 rare weapons, the rare rippling blade and the rare blood wounding blade. With 10 times the explosion rate, Luhan only got 2 rare blades, and the normal first kill of a level 50 gold boss can get 1 rare blade. This is because the upper limit may be 2, and Mondogan can at most only 2 rare weapons can be dropped. I don't know how much these 2 knives are worth. Luhan muttered, summoned the recycling Uzumaki, picked up the 2 knives and looked at them one by one, and then threw them all in. One worth 100 ingots, one worth 80 ingots, recycling total 90 ingots. Many days before he killed Mondogan, before Luhan encountered Orochimaru, he fled alone, killed a lot of Kurigakure ninjas, and got some ingots. At this time, the total number of ingots on Luhan's body had reached 295. 59 psychoactive potions were obtained from killing Mondogan. Luhan counted them all that day and used them all before he finally entered the war. Because of that batch of psychoactive potions, his total chakra had officially entered. The level 50 class should be somewhere between the bronze boss and the white-silver boss. Luhan's total chakra is still low, but it's not his fault. Growing up too fast can't be considered a fault. What should be used? What should be collected? Soon, the wooden couch is empty. Luhan waved his hand again, and there were 4 more scrolls on the wooden couch. S-level art, sweetened water style, multi-screw blast. S-level art, futon, wind style, with the wind. S-rank art, secret art, magic god spirit outfit spell. S-level technique, sweetened water style, super waterfall technique. Scrolls of 4 S-rank spells. All from killing Mondogan. After killing Mondogan, he got a total of 16 S-level and A-level scrolls. After Luhan used up the psychic destruction scroll that day, he used up all the other 10 A-level scrolls. At that time, Luhan was in a hurry, and the value of A-level skills was not high, and most of them were only worth 10 yuan, so Luhan didn't think much about it. A total of 5 S-rank scrolls were obtained that day, and Luhan also used one of them, that is futon, wind style, trapped scroll ascension. Because Luhan felt at the time that he should have more means on the upper limit attack ability, so as to be able to respond better, so he chose the futon, wind style, S-level attack scroll and used it up. Learned from Mondogan were useless, but Luhan didn't regret it. Once he learned it, he became a master. The more means he had, the stronger his strength would be. Compared with recycling them into ingots and reusing them, it can't be said that using the recyclable scrolls is wrong, it depends on what Luhan thinks. These 4. Let's see. Luhan put the futon, wind style, multi-screw blasting scroll before recovering Uzumaki, showing the value of 100 ingots, the lowest value S-level technique. Luhan hesitated, put the scroll as thrown into the recycling Uzumaki. Then pick up the futon, wind style, and go with the wind scroll, which is worth 100 ingots, throw it away. Sweetened water style, super waterfall technique, worth 110 ingots, lose it. In fact, Luhan could have waited 4 days before entering the subversive space to check the specific effects of several S-level scrolls in detail, and then decide whether to recycle them. Ingot is the most important thing. Only when there are enough ingots can Luhan unlock more exchange options. Luhan has always hated trouble. 3 more S-rank scrolls were recovered, and 155 ingots were recovered. The number of all Luhan ingots has reached an unprecedented 450. The magic of the devil and the gods. Luhan picked up the last scroll and took a breath of excitement. He was really looking forward to the value of this scroll, because it can be easily deduced that this technique is the technique that Mundogen launched the curse. It is the stunt of Mundogen's master. Luhan slowly brought the scroll closer to recover Uzumaki. The S-level secret technique, the magic god's magic spell, the exchange price is 420 ingots, and the recovery price is 210 ingots. My day. Fuck. Luhan was stunned for a moment. It's not that he didn't infer the price of the magic god's magic spell before. He speculated that it should be worth more than 200 yuan, maybe even 300 yuan. I never imagined that the value of this technique is sky high. How could Mundogen be so powerful as master? How could it be? What is his origin? Luhan asked in a daze, blinked his eyes twice, and pondered for a long time before he took the scroll back and threw it into space. Backpack. Do not recycle. With such a high-value technique, there may be other special things. Anyway, it can't be used after changing the ingot. Luhan will wait until he returns to the subversive space to check the details of the magic god's magic spell. Make another decision. Phew. Luhan took a deep breath and waved again, with 2 more scrolls in his hand. Book of Memories. The Book of Evil Words. They were all deprived of income from Mundogen's corpse, because it took a long time to receive this kind of scroll, and Luhan didn't have time before. Mundogen. Maybe, these 2 scrolls will give me the answer. Luhan muttered and opened the Book of Memory. Chapter-341-360 God Cthulhu. Countless lights and shadows swirled in front of Luhan's eyes, forming strange pictures. Some were curse marks, some were landscape paintings, some were sun, moon, and stars. To Luhan's disappointment, he didn't get the magic spell through the Book of Memory. Any memory of Duoin, the effect of the Book of Memory, is to strengthen Luhan's memory ability. According to the rules, Luhan will obtain half of Mundogen's memory ability through the Book of Memory. Mundogen can remember everything he sees in an instant, and Luhan will also gain the ability to remember it, but he doesn't remember as fast as Mundogen. Mundogen remembers a scene, all the details of the painting take 1 second, so Luhan needs 2 seconds. The strength of memory is calculated in this way. For ordinary people to memorize all the details of a landscape painting, he needs to memorize it by rote, read it repeatedly, and eventually he will be able to remember it, but it will take a long time. Don't forget, you can remember it right away, and Luhan, remember twice as long as Mundogen. I don't know how long it took, all kinds of visions disappeared. Luhan sat cross-legged on the wooden couch, closed his eyes and meditated for a long time, let out a long breath, opened his eyes, and the light flashed in his eyes. Don't forget it, Luhan muttered, slowly glanced at the room for a week, and closed his eyes again. The outline, layout, and various furnishings of the entire room formed a specific picture in Luhan's mind. So true. Ha, this ability, good, good. Luhan opened his eyes and grinned. In fact, he was a little worried that he would suffer from hyperamnesia, which would be very painful. Now that he has a clear picture of the situation, all previous worries are all gone. A lot of excess. Pick up the Tome of Evil Words scroll again. What exactly is this? Luhan never thought to understand what the word, evil language, means. This is definitely not some kind of technique or some kind of attack and defense ability. Those are all techniques and cannot be called. It's called, book. This can only be a purely auxiliary ability. Because this kind of scroll cannot be exchanged in the subversive space, it is impossible for Luhan to know what use it is without dropping the Book of Evil Words. I hope it won't cause harm to me. Luhan muttered, took a deep breath, and suddenly opened the scroll. Call. Light erupted from the opened scroll, a light that only Luhan could see. Countless light and shadow images kept appearing, surrounding Luhan. This was a memory image, and Luhan was passively accepting them. This, Mundogen, he turned out to be. Lu Han, who passively received the memory, quickly showed a shocked expression. He finally knew the origin of Mundogan. The ability that the Book of Evil Words has given to Lu Han is, Evil Experiment. Mundogan is a test subject. His memory is not innate at all, but acquired through experimentation. Among ordinary people, there will always be people who are gifted. Some are free, gifted and intelligent, some are born with great strength. The reason why Mundogan can never forget is because he has absorbed the memory ability of others. The Book of Evil Words displayed the light and shadow screen and told Lu Han everything. Just like Lu Han obtained the ability to detoxify by using the Book of Poisons, the technique of evil words allowed Lu Han to know how to do evil experiments. It is very complicated and involves various rituals, as well as anatomy, pharmaceuticals, human transplantation, and some special techniques. Because the content was too complicated, Lu Han received it for several hours, and it was already done outside before he finished receiving it. A quiet cave room. All kinds of visions disappeared in Lu Han's eyes. Lu Han, who was shocked again and again by the test process, did not return to his senses for a long time. I didn't expect that Mundogan hides so deeply. He is really sinful. Lu Han whispered. The Book of Evil Words is to transmit the test ability to Lu Han through the memory screen, which are all tests done by Mundogan, and he has seen the experiments that he knows how to do, which will naturally involve Mundogan's previous life experience. Mundogan. His real name is Meng Duoan. He was born in Tangyan Village, the country of Sichuan, and became a genin at the age of 7. He was once the most loyal follower of the demon sect. He is also one of the best experimental subjects of the demon sect in recent decades. He has acquired many strange abilities through experiments. Before he left the demon sect, he was already a high-ranking member in the demon sect. During the First Ninja World War, the demon sect was inevitably involved in the war. Because the most powerful elder at the time died in the battle, there was a split within the demon sect. Many people's belief in the demon god was shaken because of belief issues. A civil war broke out among the demon cultists. The civil war lasted for a year and one side was defeated. Mundogan belonged to the defeated side, so he left the demon cult and went to the village of Kurigakar. And according to his memory, the demon god religion at this time is no longer called demon god religion, but evil god religion. The sect that Hidan believes in Akatsuki's undead duo in the original book. In the original book, Hidan is a loyal follower of the heretic god sect, as well as a test subject, and his immortality is obtained through experiments. Strictly speaking, the demon religion that Mundogan believes in is the predecessor of the evil god religion that Hidan believes in. Devil, evil god, do these gods really exist? Lu Han was lost in thought. He couldn't be sure, because there was probably another world hidden outside the Hokage world, which was reflected in the original work, Sarutobi Hiruzen. In order to seal Orochimaru, he sold his soul to the god of death. Death exists. What about demons and evil gods? Experiment. I know how to do the experiment now, that's. Lu Han was very moved, but he couldn't use himself to do the experiment. It was stated many times in those light and shadow pictures that the experimenter. All of them died. Very few survived. Lu Han pondered. At first he was very excited, but later, he was a little tired. He only came back last night and has not rested until now. Forget it, sleep. Lu Han yawned and was about to lie down. Dong, dong dong. The knock on the door suddenly sounded, very soft, and then a very disturbing voice came to mind outside the door. Han. Lord Hengguang, are you awake? It's Hyuga Luo Ning. Chapter 0349_Injustice. Is it already dawn? Lu Han muttered. When using the Book of Evil Words, Lu Han couldn't accurately judge the passage of time, so he didn't know what time it was. I'll talk about it when I wake up. Lu Han replied in the direction of the door. There was no movement outside. Lu Han yawned again, rolled over and lay down, stretched, closed his eyes and fell asleep quickly. Outside the door, dimly lit passage. Hyuga Luo Ning stood in front of the door. shaking her shoulders and muttering in tears. He really is blaming me, really blaming me. He is angry. Time flies. At noon, Lu Han was sleeping soundly. Dong dong dong. The violent slam on the door woke Lu Han instantly. Lu Han, who just woke up, was still a little stunned. He paused and asked, "Who is it?" Lu Han's voice was very hoarse. "Throat is dry. Bastard kid, get out of here," Tsunade roared from outside the door. Ah, Lu Han got up all of a sudden. He felt bad, but it was impossible to run away. Tsunade was very polite for not rushing into the room directly. "Wait a minute, right now," Lu Han just said. "Call." The whirlwind rolled up in front of the wooden couch. Tsunade appeared out of thin air, stared at Lu Han fiercely, and without waiting for Lu Han to explain, he reached out and grabbed Lu Han's ear, but did not squeeze hard, just pulled it. He shouted at Lu Han, "You bastard, you are going too far." Hey, it hurts, I was wrong." Lu Han shouted strangely, That happened yesterday, I really." "Shut up," Tsunade roared to interrupt Lu Han's voice. His breath was short, his cheeks turned Yuhi slightly, and he immediately approached Lu Han fiercely and whispered, "That's not what I said. You bastard, you are not allowed to mention it. Yesterday." "Ah, okay, not to mention. What's the matter?" Lu Han blinked, stunned again. "Humph, are you pretending to be stupid?" Tsunade looked angry, grabbed Lu Han by the collar again, dragged Lu Han off the wooden couch, and pulled Lu Han towards the door. Lu Han was so helpless, he was pulled by Tsunade, and he tilted his head to look at Tsunade's cheeks, which were a little hairy. Holding it all the way, when he reached the door, Tsunade let go of Lu Han, pulled the door open, pointed to the outside and roared at Lu Han again. "It's been a few hours. You're still finished. Almost done, right? Why are you so cruel?" Outside the door, Hyuga Luoning kneeled at the door with her knees on the ground, her head bowed, and she was still sobbing. How many hours? She's been kneeling here. Lu Han's eyes widened. What's the situation? Dare you say you don't know? Lu Han's ears hurt after Tsunade's roar. "I don't know, I really don't know." Lu Han's face was innocent, he really didn't know. "Sophistry. I've already asked. You talked to her in the morning. When I came in the morning, she was kneeling here. I thought you could let her in. Just when I came over, she was still kneeling here. You are going too far." I really don't know, I'm sleeping. Really, I'm sleeping," Lu Han shouted injustice. Tsunade stared at Lu Han, as if he was about to bite. Stop, let's stop arguing." Lu Hanlian gestured to Tsunade, then looked at Hyuga Luoning, took a step forward, cleared his throat and said softly, "Cough. Get up." Hyuga Luoning stood up all of a sudden, but her legs became weak and she almost fell, but she stabilized and stood up again, her head still lowered. "Kneeling for too long, my legs are a little numb." "Why are you kneeling here?" Lu Han asked calmly. "Yes, I'm sorry, I misunderstood you, I'm sorry." Hyuga Luoning's voice trembled, not daring to look up. "Oh, I forgive you. It doesn't matter," Lu Han said indifferently. In fact, he didn't plan to embarrass Hyuga Luoning. If Hyuga Luoning could bow down and apologize, he would be content. The name Senju Senluo scolds Lu Han as a bastard, but Lu Han doesn't care. Of course, he also scolds Senju Senluo as a bastard. HMPH, no sincerity at all. Tsunade, who was standing beside him, crossed his arms and squinted at Lu Hanchi and said, "Mr. Tsunade, did you make a mistake?" She apologized. "What sincerity do I need?" Lu Hanchao looked at Tsunade helplessly. Tsunade glanced at Hyuga Luoning with her head down, blinked at Lu Han, pursed her lips, and made a gesture. Lu Han's face was strange and his eyes were surprised. Tsunade glared at Lu Han again. Okay. Lu Han sighed, looked at Hyuga Luoning again, took another step forward, hugged Hyuga Luoning directly in his arms, patted his back and comforted. Okay. Be good. Forgive me. What about you? Don't cry, Don't cry, Luo Ning, little girl, hug. Just hug. Tsunade shivered a little, with a look of goosebumps. Let's hug and hug, why are you so nauseous? I was really wrong. I'm sorry. Woo woo. Hyuga Luo Ning burst into tears in Lu Han's arms, hugging Lu Han's waist tightly, and the tears soon hit Lu Han's chest wet. Little girl is so soft. Lu Han muttered in his heart. 2 days later. Lu Han, Orochimaru, Hyuga Heian and others has been sent back to Konoha, and Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen has not yet replied. Lu Han estimates that Sarutobi Hiruzen will let him go back, but he must get an order to set off. In the dimly lit cave room, Lu Han was sitting on the wooden couch, watching with the information scroll in his hand. Hyuga Luo Ning sat on her knees very well, with her small hands clenched into fists. She was beating Lu Han's legs, like a little maid. If this scene were seen by the Hyuga's ninja, it would even tear Lu Han's heart alive. The past few days, Hyuga Luo Ning has been very obedient, handing Lu Han some tea, beating his legs and pinching his back. Lu Han was a little embarrassed at first, but now he has gotten used to it. Sir, Might Dai's voice suddenly sounded outside the door. What? Lu Han responded. Sir Uzumaki Jinghai is here and is talking to Lord Danzo. Lord Danzo invites you to come over. Might Dai said outside the door. Oh, Lu Han looked up at the door, his eyes flashing. Chapter 0350_passing by. Uzumaki is shocked. Lu Han still remembers his mission when he came to the land of Vortex. This is a secret mission given to Lu Han by Sarutobi Hiruzen, that is, to monitor the Uzumaki family and the Uzumaki Shocking Sea. If any problems are found, they can be dealt with appropriately. Uzumaki Jinghai and Sarutobi Hiruzen are close friends. Because of the relationship between the previous generation, the two have known each other for 20 or 30 years. If it wasn't for Uzumaki Jinghai's information about the cold light, there would be no rift between the two. Sarutobi Hiruzen is a person who can't rub the sand in his eyes, but he can endure it and will consider the overall situation, so he never went to embarrass Uzumaki Jinghai. Sarutobi Hiruzen naturally does not want to completely fall out with Uzumaki Jinghai, which will cause Uzushiogakure village and Konoha break. But comparing heart to heart, both sides know that they can't go back to the past. I see, you go first. Lu Han replied to the door, thought for a while, then looked at Hyuga Luo Ning. Take all the intelligence scrolls, send them back to Dagwon, tell him to prepare. I expedited information to Konoha. Yes, Lord Hangguang. Hyuga Luo nodded his head and complied in a low voice. He was very obedient. Yeah, Lu Han nodded, jumped off the wooden couch and turned back. By the way, it is estimated that we should go back to Konoha in a day or two. You prepare early, maybe you will be on the road soon. Got it, Hyuga Luo Ning responded. Lu Han turned around and disappeared into the room. At the same time, the Stronghold command room. Uzumaki sat on the chair in front of the desk in shock, with a smile on his face, looking at Danzo with a serious face behind the desk. The atmosphere was a little depressed, because Danzo was not very friendly. Lord Jinghai, you should be aware that if Uzushiogakure and Konoha can't work together seamlessly, Kurigakure will take advantage of the loophole. A few days ago, you transferred some ninjas back to the temporary stronghold in the middle of the country of Vortex, which led to the weakening of the defense of the eastern port. You did this. Danzo's face was a little dark. He was not polite to Uzumaki Jinghai. As he was, it was not a problem to have an equal dialogue with Uzumaki Jinghai, and he was very annoyed at this time. Recently, Uzumaki has been somewhat disobedient, which makes Danzo, who is the commander-in-chief of the Vortex, lose face. Of course, the face is secondary. The main reason is that there has been a problem with the battle plan formulated by Danzo, and the problem lies in the Uzushiogakure Corps. Lord Danzo. Uzumaki interrupted Danzo with a shocked smile, looking at Danzo with deep eyes. You should know better. I know the country of Vortex better than you. You Konoha won't send more ninjas to the country of Vortex. Do you think it's appropriate to want to be in control? Whether it's suitable or not, You can ask Hokage, Sama. Danzo retorted, we Konoha ninjas are working hard for your Uzushiogakure village. Lord Danzo, I think we should not talk about this. I am here today, I don't want to quarrel with you. Uzumaki shook his head with a startled smile. HMPH. Okay. Danzo's face darkened a bit, he couldn't do anything, and the Uzushiogakure Corps didn't listen to his commands. Captain Hangwang hasn't come yet, is he really here? Uzumaki asked again in shock, glancing back at the door of the room. I shouldn't go out, but I will come. Danzo said blankly, his eyes narrowed slightly. Lord Jinghai. You seem to be very concerned about Hangwang, so eager to see him. People like Tianzhou naturally want to meet. Uzumaki was very calm in shock. You know, I did some wrong things before, Hiruzen. He is still angry with me, ha. I want to come to Hangwang and know that I just took this opportunity to talk to him about this matter. If he can forgive me, it would be great. If he wants to come to Hiruzen, he can also relieve his anger. Quote. Uzumaki gave a wry smile in shock. Danzo raised his brows slightly, but said nothing. Uzumaki Jinghai came this time, and he actually passed by here. He was going to Konoha to meet Sarutobi Hiruzen in person, and he just passed by here before entering the country of fire. Uzumaki Jinkai said so, but in fact, he didn't pass by here at all, he came here just to see the cold light. 2 days ago, Luhan brought Orochimaru and Hyuga Heian back to the base. That night, Danzo sent out several pieces of information. The most detailed information was for Sarutobi Hiruzen. Ting and Uzumaki startled the sea. It is necessary. Because the information brought back by Luhan was too important, the leader of the Kurigakure Scout Force, Mundogen, died in battle. Kurigakure Mizukage assists Boiling Rain to die. The death of these two people has a great impact. Konoha can completely change the plan according to this change, and since the plan is to be changed, the cooperation between Konoha and Uzushiogakure must be required. Information must be transmitted quickly. If the time is prolonged, the Kurigakure must have already adjusted it, and the information that is out of time will be meaningless. Uzumaki Jinghai got the information, knowing that Hangwang rescued Orochimaru and Hyuga Heian, and also that Mundogen and Boyu died in battle. He can't believe it. How could Boiling Rain be killed? No news from Kurigakure. He even suspected that Konoha had discovered that he was secretly colluding with Boiling Yu and deliberately lied to him. So he rushed to the base in a hurry, he just wanted to see with his own eyes whether Hangwang was here. ... Command outdoor, wide and dim passage. More than a dozen ninjas wearing wide-sleeved robes stood everywhere, all of them were serious and silent. On their robes, the family emblem of the Uzumaki clan can be seen, all of them are Uzumaki ninjas. Uzumaki Jinghai came here, of course not alone. After all, there may be dangers on the way. These more than 10 Uzumaki ninjas are all guards of Uzumaki Jinghai. Call. A whirlwind rolled up at the entrance of the passage, and Luhan, wearing a black robe and a mask, appeared out of thin air. Lord Hangwang. The two Anbu ninjas with their hands at the entrance greeted respectfully. Yeah, Luhan responded indifferently, walked into the passage, turned around the arc of the passage. Luhan's eyes narrowed for a moment, he saw those Uzumaki ninjas gathered near the entrance of the command room. Uzushiogakure Village Commander Guard. Level 40 Gold Boss, Uzumaki Stop the Land. Uzushiogakure Village Commander Guard. Level 40 Bronze Boss, Uzumaki Yashin Kiba. Uzushiogakure Village Uzumaki Clan Inner Guard Captain. Level 50 White Silver Boss, Uzumaki Praise. At a glance, all of them are ninjas who can see the rank and title. All are big Yuhi names. Chapter 0351 _ How do you know? There are a total of 15 Uzumaki ninjas. The worst is the level 40 Bronze Boss, which is the elite Jonin, and there are 4 ninjas who have reached level 50. 2 level 50 elite, 1 white silver boss, and 1 level 50 gold boss. They are Yuhi's name or not, it is very problematic to say that Uzumaki Jinghai came to Konoha's temporary stronghold, but brought so many powerful ninja guards. How many people are there in the Uzumaki clan now? I'm afraid there are only 300 or 400. This also includes some old and weak women and children. There are probably less than 200 ninjas who are really capable of fighting. Compared with the Uzumaki clan in their heyday, they are not even 1/10 of the population. The Uzumaki family is in decline, and there are only so many masters. Now it seems that the Uzumaki Jinghai may have brought them here. I am afraid that only a few senior ninjas with important positions were not brought here. Uzushiogakure and Konoha are allies. When Uzumaki came here in shock, he didn't need to worry about safety at all, but if he was afraid of danger on the way. It's like nonsense. Obviously, Uzumaki was scared of the sea. He is not afraid of Kurigakure, but of Konoha. He has a ghost in his heart. So many ninjas with advanced sealing skills, trouble. Luhan's thoughts were up and down, but he showed any abnormal expression on the surface. Walking through the long corridor, Luhan walked past several Uzumaki ninjas and stopped at the commander. In front of the room door. Dong dong. Lord Danzo. Luhan knocked on the door. Come in. Danzo's voice sounded inside. Luhan pushed open the door and entered, and saw Uzumaki sitting on the chair in shock at a glance. The name Shion Yuhi on his head seemed to be bleeding. Just like when Luhan met Yuhi a year ago, he was a level 60 bronze boss. To Danzo. Uzumaki Jinghai is more terrifying than Danzo. Although Danzo has mastered many evil techniques, most of them can be defeated. At that time, he was recruited. Some of Uzumaki's shocking sealing techniques, once hit, he is puzzled, and no one can break it afterwards. The Uzumaki family is an ancient and famous family that has been passed down for thousands of years. Although it has gone into decline now, the background is still there. The sealing techniques of the Uzumaki family have been continuously improved by the Uzumaki ninjas of all dynasties, and some sealing techniques are perfect. This is the most terrifying place for the Uzumaki clan. Big Yuhi named Uzumaki shocked the sea. There is no doubt that he became Yuhi and has a relationship with Kurigakure. Come on, sit down. Danzo was quite polite to Luhan. The two looked alike and separated from each other, and the distance between them was very deep, but in front of Uzumaki Jinghai, they were both Konoha ninjas, so they would naturally stand on the same front. Even if the two discord, this kind of discord can't be shown in front of Uzumaki Jinghai. Luhan nodded to Danzo, then walked to another chair in front of the desk and sat down. I don't need to introduce you, you should know each other. Danzo glanced at the two of them. I know, Luhanmo said, and glanced at Uzumaki Jinghai. He seemed very cold. This kind of coldness was naturally aimed at Uzumaki Jinghai. Luhan didn't have the intention of being polite to Yuhi, and it would be good if he didn't do it directly. Ha ha ha, Captain Hangwang, stay safe. Uzumaki burst out laughing in shock, looking at Luhan with a smile on his face, looking extremely kind. Captain Hangwang has made a remarkable contribution this time, and he really is a hero. Exceeded the prize, Luhan coldly said. Hey, Uzumaki sighed again in shock, and continued, I did something wrong at the beginning, and I hope Captain Hangwang won't mind, but I'm also very annoyed afterward. I just hate that Kurigakure's tricks are so ruthless. It's okay, it's during the joint battle between Konoha and Uzushiogakure, so they should work together. Luhan's voice was always so hoarse and flat. Yeah, that's right. Uzumaki nodded in shock, with a wider smile on his face, then paused and said, I don't know if I should ask it or not. Please. That boiling you is extremely powerful. How did Captain Hangwang kill him? 4 fights in 1, it's not my work alone, besides, Boyu doesn't have to die. Luhan glanced at Uzumaki in shock. The situation was chaotic at the time, and no body was left after Boyu's death, so. In fact, everyone is suspecting that Boiling Yu is not dead at all. What mysterious method did he use to escape? We just seriously injured him. Oh, Uzumaki's face changed in shock. He immediately covered it up again, and sighed regretfully. It's a pity, if it just hurt him. With his ability, it's easy to recover. Dong dong. There was another knock on the door, followed by a heavy male voice. Sir Danzo. It was Hyuga Hayoung. Come in, Danzo said. Hyuga Hayoung pushed in the door, and it was Danzo who asked him to come, because Hyuga Hayoung was the captain of the independent scout unit, and Uzumaki came in shock. Hyuga Hayoung should come over. If possible, several people should discuss the future battle plan. Lord Jinghai, Captain Hangguang. Hyuga Hayoung greeted the two with a faint smile. Luhan nodded to Hyuga Hayoung. Danzo made a gesture, indicating that Hyuga Hayoung would also sit down. Hyuga Hayoung pulled the chair to the left of Luhan, while Uzumaki Jinghai was to the right of Luhan. Captain Hayoung looks good, but is he injured? Uzumaki asked in shock. It's okay. Hyuga Hayoung nodded, and was quite polite to Uzumaki Jinghai. Thanks Lord Jinghai, there is no injury. Thanks to Captain Hangguang. He glanced at Luhan as he spoke. Oh, Uzumaki glanced at Luhan in amazement and asked again, Captain Hangguang will also heal. Understood, Lu said coldly. Ha 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 ha. Uzumaki laughed again in shock. He didn't think much about Luhan's indifference. Luhan is an Anbu ninja, so indifference is normal, ha ha ha. Captain Hangguang is really a genius, only 13. 4 years of age to be so capable. Lord Jinghai, I have a question. Luhan suddenly said loudly, squinting at Uzumaki Jinghai. What? Uzumaki was startled to see Luhan's eyes, and couldn't help but be stunned. How did you know? Luhan's voice sank. I'm only 13 or 14 years old. Luhan has never disclosed his identity to Uzumaki Jinghai. Throughout Konoha, very few know his true identity. Uzumaki's eyes narrowed in shock. Chapter 0352-13 or 14-year-old Cold Light. Hyuga Hayoung looked at Luhan with a shocked face, his eyes widened like bull's eyes. He was sitting here, and naturally he heard Uzumaki Jinghai's words. Luhan didn't deny it, but asked Uzumaki Jinghai how he knew. 13 or 14. Hangguang is only 13 or 14 years old. Hyuga Hayoung had seen Luhan's face. He knew that Luhan was very young, but he always thought that Luhan just looked young. No matter in terms of strength or temperament, Hangguang is not like a 13 or 14-year-old boy. Really 13 or 14? Ha! Uzumaki's shocked expression didn't change, and annoyance flashed in his eyes, but he heard him say, Master Hokage told me. He said that you are a genius and evildoer. After the establishment of Konoha village, the most talented person genius ninja. No flaws. Because no one here can immediately ask Sarutobi Hiruzen whether he said this to Uzumaki Jinghai, but Luhan knows that Sarutobi Hiruzen will never say it. Sarutobi Hiruzen has already sent Luhan to secretly pay attention to the Uzumaki family. How could it be possible to tell Uzumaki Jinghai such a thing? The confidentiality level of Luhan's identity has reached the highest top secret level. What's more, Uzumaki Jinghai is an outsider. Even under normal circumstances, Sarutobi Hiruzen would not talk nonsense. Well, it seems that Lord Hokage and Lord Jinghai have a very good personal relationship. Luhan looked at Uzumaki Jinghai and said lightly, then turned his head. He was already sure. Uzumaki Jinghai must have been in contact with Kurigakure. At the beginning, Ghost Deng Chuntao was killed by Luhan. Normally, Kurigakure should send other people to contact Uzumaki Jinghai. And now, Uzumaki Jinghai is Yuhi's name. Therefore, Luhan had to wonder, Uzumaki Jinghai may have reached an agreement with Kurigakure, and it can even be said that he has taken refuge with Kurigakure. If this inference is correct, then the purpose of Uzumaki Jinghai's visit to the base this time is very suspicious. Lord Danzo, did you let Lord Jinghai come over? But have something to discuss? Luhan asked directly. Lord Jinghai is going to see Lord Hokage. Danzo said behind the desk, glancing at Uzumaki Jinghai, there have been some problems with our cooperation recently. After Lord Jinghai went to Konoha to meet Lord Hokage this time, I think the problem will be solved. Of course, there are some things that I have to clarify with Hiruzen face to face. Uzumaki said with a startled smile. In the following time, the four people in the room had some discussions about the current situation in the Kingdom of Vortex. In fact, only three people were talking: Luhan, Danzo, and Uzumaki Jinghai, and Hyuga Haeyong didn't say much because of identity issues. He has only been back 2 days, and he has not had time to understand the current situation in detail, but Luhan is different. Luhan is the deputy captain of Anbu. In the country of Vortex, his intelligence level is no lower than that of Danzo. He has been in the past 2 days. Looking at the information, I have a good understanding of the situation in the country of Vortex. When the three of them talked, Hyuga Haeyong was also by the side, and sometimes Danzo would tell him some things, let him remember and arrange them later. It took a long time for Hyuga Haeyong to recover, but he still looked at Luhan frequently. He still seemed a little unbelievable. Han Guang was only 13 or 14 years old. Unconsciously, it was noon. That's it for today. After discussing one more thing, Uzumaki stood up in shock and said with a light smile, I can't delay here for too long. I have to go to see Lord Hokage earlier. Go back early, and wait. I'll be back in a few days. We'll discuss it in detail then. Okay. Danzo stood up, and Luhan and Hyuga Haeyong got up one after another. Danzo personally sent Uzumaki Jinghai out. Although he was very annoyed at Uzumaki Jinghai, as a host, he should send important guests out. After the two went out, only Luhan and Hyuga Haeyong were left in the command room. Captain Hangguang, I have a question. I don't know, Hyuga Haeyong said, wanting to ask but not wanting to ask. Just ask Mr. Haeyong. Luhan smiled at Hyuga Haeyong. He had a very good impression of Hyuga Haeyong. The head of the Hyuga family is truly loyal, but he didn't educate his daughter well. Did you and the little girl know each other very early? Hyuga Haeyong asked. Yes, Luhan simply admitted. Hyuga Haeyong nodded and didn't say anything. He just kept thinking, isn't the 13-year-old Hangguang the same age as his daughter? In this way, they probably knew each other at ninja school. Long time, and Hyuga Haeyong knew that he was right. But he still didn't know who Han Guang was. He couldn't find a corresponding character. 13 or 14-year-old Hangguang can reach such a height, then he must have been the favored son of heaven before, and his talent is outstanding and famous for Konoha, but Hyuga Haeyong did not expect that there is a genius who has attracted much attention during the ninja school. It is close to the cold light. While Danzo returned to the office. Humph, the old guy who doesn't know how to advance or retreat. Danzo snorted coldly as soon as he entered the door, walking all the way back to his position. How can I expect Lord Hokage to stand by his side? If it weren't for our Konoha, his Uzushiogakure village would have ended long ago. Danzo made no secret of his anger, because externally, this room is all his own. Lord Jinghai, I'm afraid there are difficulties. Hyuga Haeyong sighed. The two sides fought together, and there were internal differences, which he didn't want to see. Lord Danzo, Luhan called out. Seeing that Danzo had seen it, he continued, I don't know if you have noticed that Uzumaki Jinghai's entourage guards. Some. What? Danzo frowned. It's all elite jonin, Luhan said heavily. Huh. Danzo raised his eyebrows, but he didn't pay much attention. They, all elite jonin. Humph. This old guy, he's really afraid of death. I am afraid of death. Luhan nodded. The corner of Danzo's mouth cracked slightly, and he seemed to be a little contemptuous of Uzumaki Jinghai. He looked away from Luhan and looked at Hyuga Haeyong, was about to say something when he suddenly seemed to understand something, and suddenly turned to look at Luhan. His eyes narrowed and he said, What do you mean? There is something wrong with Uzumaki's shocking sea. Luhan said with great certainty. Chapter 0353_catch up. Is there a problem? Danzo's face changed, and Han Guang, who was the deputy captain of Anbu, said that there was a problem with Uzumaki's shocking sea, and it was not an ordinary problem. You mean? I think he may have secretly colluded with Kurigakure. Luhan said quickly. I dare say, he is definitely not going to see Lord Hokage. He has just left, and it is estimated that he will go directly to fight with the Uzushiogakure Legion. He is here this time. I'm not crossing the road at all, I just came here to see if I really escaped from the southwest mountain range alive. Why do you say that? Danzo said solemnly, just because he brought a dozen elite Jonin guards. If Mr. Danzo doesn't believe it, we can catch up now. Lu Han didn't explain. Although he was capable of making far-fetched explanations, it was too complicated. He was sure that Uzumaki Jinghai had defected. It was through Yuhi's name. Not only it is Uzumaki Jinghai, one is Yuhi, and everyone around him is. This is enough to explain the problem, but it is impossible for Lu Han to speak out about Yuhi's name. Let's catch up together, Lu Hanlian said. It's best to bring some more people, maybe there will be a fight. You have to understand, you can't talk nonsense. The stakes are very important. You can't tell by looking at it. It's not very troublesome. Lord Hangguang, Hyuga Heiyang said on the side. He seemed to not believe Lu Han's words, because what Lu Han said was too scary. It was something Hyuga Heiyang couldn't even think about, but Konoha came here helping the village of Uzushiogakure. Uzumaki was shocked but betrayed. Is he crazy? I stick to my idea. Lu Han glanced at Hyuga Heiyang and said. Danzo behind the desk was sullen. He was thinking. If Danzo didn't order, no one would chase, and neither would Lu Han. Although he really wanted to take the first kill of the level 60 bronze boss, he knew that he was not the opponent of Uzumaki Jinghai and the dozen or so Uzumaki ninjas. He might not be able to beat Uzumaki Jinghai, and it would not be a problem to run away, so it was useless for him to catch up. As for confirmation, others need to confirm some situations. Lu Han doesn't need it. Trust you once, Danzo said without thinking too long, then stood up. I'm going to find someone. Lu Han also stood up immediately. On the southeastern border of the Fire Nation, in the vast forest. Call. One after another figure appeared under the same big tree, a total of 6 people, Lu Han, Hyuga Heiyang, Danzo, Tsunade, Jiraiya, Orochimaru. All are extremely powerful ninjas, either cage level or quasi-cage level. With such a configuration, it is not a problem to fight a standard configured legion. I can't feel it. Lu Han spoke first, but the insight map did not detect Uzumaki Jinghai and others. Hyuga Heiyang clasped his hands together, wrinkles appeared around his eyes, and peeped out into the distance. Is it true? How could there be a problem with Uzumaki's Jinghai? No one sleeps during the afternoon nap, I didn't say. It's a waste of time. Is it okay to take a nap during this time? Jiraiya muttered, with a tired face, still not awake. Shut up, Tsunade snapped with a glance. Jiraiya was choked and almost bit her tongue with an innocent look on her face. Tsunade looked at Lu Han again and hesitated before saying, Captain Hangguang, are you really sure? Will it be? In fact, she couldn't believe that Uzumaki Jinghai would betray. She called Lu Han Captain Hangguang, but because she knew Anbu's rules. During this kind of mission, she would subconsciously avoid revealing Lu Han's true identity. I'm sure, Lu Han said hoarsely, he definitely has a problem. The reason? Tsunade asked again. I won't talk about other doubts, just a question. Lu Han continued, he knows my age. I have never revealed this to him. My true identity is a top secret in Konoha. But he can actually know something. How does he know what most Konoha ninjas don't know? Didn't he say, Lord Hokage told him? Danzo interjected. Lord Danzo thinks this is the truth. Lu Han looked at Danzo. Lord Hokage told him. Is it possible? Although it's a bit strange, it's not completely impossible. Danzo said, Uzumaki Jinghai did something wrong before, and Lord Hokage was angry, but Lord Hokage will consider the overall situation. Maybe, Lord Hokage wants to ease the conflict with Uzumaki Jinghai. Relationship, take the initiative to tell some confidential information to show trust in Uzumaki Jinghai, it is possible. Danzo knows Sarutobi Hiruzen very well. He is right, Sarutobi Hiruzen always takes the overall situation into consideration, and sometimes does some unreasonable things for the sake of the overall situation. Lord Danzo, I can tell you clearly, Lord Hokage will never reveal my situation to Uzumaki Jinghai. Luhan said with great certainty. Why? Danzo frowned, he felt something in Luhan's words. Except for Hyuga Haeyoung, everyone else looked at Luhan with puzzled eyes. How could they be so sure? Can you guess Hokage's mind? As of now, there is one thing I can tell you. Luhan glanced at it and paused. Lord Hokage sent me to the country of Vortex before, apparently for the sake of war. In fact, Lord Hokage sent me to the country of Vortex before. He gave me a secret mission. He asked me to monitor the Uzumaki family and the Uzumaki Shocking Sea. Once any abnormal situation is found, it can be dealt with directly and appropriately. You said, Lord Hokage gave me this kind of task. How could it be possible to reveal my situation to Uzumaki Jinghai? The expressions of the four around him changed. Danzo glanced at Tsunade and then at Orochimaru again. Strange. There's a place I can't see through. Hyuga Haeyoung, who had been using Byakugan to observe the surroundings, suddenly said. He still maintained the state of peeping into the distance. His brows were deeply wrinkled. There is clearly nothing there, so I can't. Perspective. How far is it? Luhan asked quickly. Almost 8 kilometers, that's. I saw it. Hyuga Haeyoung suddenly raised his voice. It's the seal barrier. It's them, who were in the seal barrier before, and now they're out. They've changed their clothes. Then, Kurigakure Anbu's standard ninja uniform. At the end, Hyuga Haeyoung was stunned. Chapter 0354 Let Danzo decide. In the lush forest, an open space with a small area, like a mirror-like barrier fluctuated abruptly, like water waves, and then shattered into bits of silver light. The barrier dissipated, and all 16 members of the Uzumaki clan appeared. They all changed into Kurigakure Anbu's standard ninja uniforms, with masks on their faces. Be careful not to meet the Konoha ninja, try to avoid it. Uzumaki said in a low voice, once you encounter the Konoha ninja team, don't have any scruples, do your best, and don't leave any openings. Yes, Patriarch. 15 senior Uzumaki clan ninjas responded with a bang. Let's go. Uzumaki waved his hands in shock and rushed out first. 16 Uzumaki ninjas changed their direction of travel. Previously, they left the temporary wooden scout base and headed in the direction of Konoha, so they directly entered the territory of the Country of Fire and headed northwest. At this time, they changed their costumes, and the direction of travel was changed to southeast. From here, they traveled southeast, and it would not be long before they returned to the Country of Vortex. Distance. On a low mountain, Luhan and the other 6 were all squatting on a leafy tree branch. Hyuga Haeyoung was still driving the Byakugan, peeping at the actions of Uzumaki Jinghai and others. Jinghai and others changed into the costumes of the Kurigakure Anbu ninja, which in itself did not explain the problem. The Konoha ninja also had the experience of disguising as other ninjas in the ninja village. This is nothing, but it is just a means during the mission. But the point is, as Han Guang said, they didn't go to Konoha. How could Uzumaki lie about such a thing? Is it necessary? Or, is Han Guang right? Look at the direction they are moving. They are going to detour back to the Country of Vortexes, and they will completely avoid the monitoring eyes and ears of our stronghold. Hyuga Haeyoung peeped at the expressway. If they still move in this direction and do not make other detours road, then, after they enter the Country of Vortex, they will directly enter the southwest mountain range. That is the area controlled by Kurigakure at this time. Follow first. Let's see what they are going to do. Danzo said coldly, and couldn't help but glance at Luhan. In fact, Danzo hoped that Luhan was wrong, because once Uzumaki Jinghai betrayed, it would have a subversive impact on the entire Country of Vortex. It was impossible for Konoha to invest more troops into the Country of Vortex. Besides, the Country of Vortex originally it belongs to the village of Uzushiogakure. The ruler is Uzumaki Jinghai. The original enemy of Kurigakure is also the village of Uzushiogakure. For a long time, the Konoha Legion's actions in the country of Vortex have been without the cooperation and intelligence support of the village of Uzushiogakure. The 6 people were all as fast as the wind, their movements were secretive, and they maintained an absolutely safe and ultra-long distance, followed by the 16 Uzumaki ninjas headed by Uzumaki Jinghai. Time flies. Uzumaki Jinghai led people around a huge half-circle, completely avoiding the Konoha temporary scout base. He seemed very cautious. It can be said that if it wasn't for Hyuga Heian, the ordinary Hyuga ninja would not be able to see their identities. For the Uzumaki clan of seal art, it is not difficult to do some hands and feet on themselves to block perspective. Judging from the way they dress and move, they are Kurigakure ninjas. After a long time. Woo-hoo-hoo. The 6 people were fast and maintained a super high-speed tracking attitude. Hyuga Heian was at the forefront, and he was always leading the way. For Lu Han, who has insight into the map, as long as he gets closer to Uzumaki Jinghai, there will be no possibility of losing. However, Lu Han has no intention to steal Hyuga Heian's limelight, whoever leads the way is the same, but said in the end, no matter what, Byakugan needs to peep. They are about to enter the country of Vortex. Hyuga Heian said suddenly while observing, when they enter the kingdom of Vortex, they enter the edge of the southwest mountain range of the kingdom of Vortex, and they may encounter Kurigakure ninjas. Damn, they are going to. Tsunade said with a change of color, the situation has reached this stage, there is no doubt. Han Guang is right, there is a problem with Uzumaki's shocking sea, and it is not an ordinary problem. Disguised as Kurigakure ninjas, they may be trying to deceive us, or they may be trying to confuse Kurigakure, or both. Danzo began, his face changing, but if they are dressed like this. Just enter like this. Kurigakure occupation area, I'm afraid. They are going to the Kurigakure core camp. Lu Han interjected abruptly and said uncertainly, if my expectations are correct, they are likely to go to Kurigakure to verify the situation of the boiling rain, and dress up as a Kurigakure Anbu ninja, maybe. Maybe there was an agreement with Kurigakure before. If they want to connect with Kurigakure, it has to be some kind of special way. They've crossed the border, Hyuga Heian said quickly. He kept watching. At this moment Uzumaki crossed the border and officially returned to the country of the Vortex. You can't let them escape into the southwest mountains. Lu Han said quickly, glancing at Danzo. Lu Han can't wait to catch up immediately. 6 people beat 16 of them. Although they will be threatened by advanced sealing techniques, the overall winning rate is very high. Lu Han naturally hopes that he can take advantage of the chaos to kill Uzumaki Jinghai and get level 60. The first kill of the bronze boss. However, Lu Han thought it was one thing, whether he could decide to bring someone to rush up was another. There are all kinds of factors involved, rights, obligations, and responsibilities. Danzo is the most suitable person to make a decision on this matter. If it is right, he has merit, but if it is wrong, he will take the blame. Lu Han still doesn't want to take responsibility for Danzo. It's a pity that the other people involved in this operation are not Anbu ninjas, otherwise Lu Han would not have thought so much. The 6 still kept moving at super high speed. Danzo's face was very ugly, and he kept thinking silently until the 6 of them also crossed the border and officially entered the country of Vortex, and he said in a low voice, "Come up, but don't do it, I want to talk to him." Quote. Yes. Several people responded and accelerated at the same time. Lu Han took out Hiraishin Kuwu and held it in his hand to prepare. At that time, he would definitely try to prevent Uzumaki from running away in shock. Uzumaki's 16 ninja speed remained unchanged. Lu Han and others accelerated and approached, getting closer and closer. Not long after, the distance between the two sides was less than 2 kilometers. They found us, Hyuga Heian whispered. Chapter-355-all movie stars. Speed up, don't let them run away. Danzo shouted. The speed of the 6 people suddenly increased, and before they could go far, Hyuga Heian suddenly said again, they didn't run. Stop. If there is really a problem with Uzumaki's Jinghai, he's probably already killing him. Everyone be careful. Hyuga Haeyoung, the leader of the independent scout troop, naturally has extremely strong analytical skills. Very simple logic. Uzumaki is shocked by the sea and is very strong. He knows that he is being followed, but he does not hide. Naturally, he wants to kill all the trackers. Everyone, slow down. Danzo's eyes flashed, and with a low drink, he turned around and ran to Lu Han's side. Others didn't know what Danzo was thinking, but they all slowed down. Hokage's assistant's orders still have to be listened to. Danzo is scheming and dedicated to Konoha, regardless of Konoha's internal conflicts. Externally, unless there is a necessary reason, Lu Han will also obey Danzo's orders. By the river. Uzumaki's 16 ninjas had just stepped on the water and crossed the river. Uzumaki, who was leading the way, suddenly felt something, raised his hand and made a gesture, then turned back and squinted. The 15 guards stopped advancing at the same time, and then spread out, forming a guard formation beside Uzumaki Jinghai. Patriarch. A voice of inquiry sounded from the side. Someone is following us. Uzumaki looked at the northwest in Jinghai. He couldn't see following, but he felt that, as the contemporary patriarch of the Uzumaki clan, Uzumaki Jinghai knew all the sealing techniques, forbidden techniques, secret techniques, and spells of the Akatsuki Uzumaki clan. The cultivation method of the art, and learn a small part of the master. Among the many techniques of Uzumaki Jinghai master, there is a sealing spell similar to the induction technique. That technique was originally used to isolate the breath, but it was developed and improved by Uzumaki Jinghai. It has induction effect, but it is not very strong. In fact, even if Uzumaki Jinghai does not have the ability to sense, it is difficult for ninjas to track him. If his strength reaches his level, his normal sensibility is extremely terrifying. Will it be the Konoha scout? Hyuga ninja, the man beside Uzumaki Jinghai asked again. In fact, he is not afraid of being a Hyuga ninja, just guessing. The masks worn by Uzumaki's 16 ninjas are all sealed, and it is difficult for Byakugan to see through, and even if a strong enough Byakugan can see through, what he sees is a distorted face. No matter who it is. Uzumaki's face turned gloomy in shock. We'll be waiting here. We don't even know Akatsuki's true identity. If it's someone who is not good for us, we'll just kill it. Even if the cold light comes. He must die here too. Uzumaki Jinghai specially mentioned Han Guang, because he felt it before, and Han Guang was already doubting him. However, Uzumaki Ocean is just talking about it in a metaphor. He doesn't really think that the cold light will come after him. Soon. Call, call, call. The sound of wind gradually sounded and approached quickly. This was the sound of ninjas moving at high speed. Uzumaki frowned slightly in shock. Because of this sound, it seemed that there was more than one person coming. This is the southwest mountain range and belongs to the Kurigakure control area. If there are more than one. Is it a Kurigakure ninja? Uzumaki guessed in a low voice. This possibility seems to be bigger. Whoa, whoa, whoa. A whirlwind rolled up in front of the trees on the other side of the river, and figures appeared out of thin air. Danzo, Hyuga Haeyoung, Cold Light, Tsunade, Jiraiya, Orochimaru. Uzumaki's face changed dramatically. The whole face under the mask froze, his pupils shrank violently, and the other Uzumaki ninjas also changed color, but they all wore masks, so no one could see anything unusual. Kurigakure Anbu. Danzo grinned grimly. You're so unlucky. Today is your day of death. Better not resist, otherwise. It's really painful. Oh, Uzumaki was startled for a moment. His thoughts flashed. He immediately raised his hand and took off his mask, and shouted, Sir Danzo, it's me. Lord Jinghai. Danzo's smile froze, and the whole person looked stunned. Why? How about you? This dress, I thought. Hey, that's a long story. Uzumaki sighed in shock, showing a wry smile. We originally planned to go directly to Konoha to see Lord Hokage, but not long after we entered the Land of Fire, we encountered the Shinobi Sword of Mist. The ninja squadron led by the 7 people. I can't fight them, because I don't have the strength to keep them all, if they escape 1 or 2. Once I let Kurigakure know that I left the country of Vortex. The army is not me, commander. They are afraid that they will take advantage of it. This is not. I can only lead people around the country of Vortex first. You met the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. Danzo exclaimed, and then showed a look of surprise. Why? Uzumaki's face changed slightly in shock, glanced at the 6 people, and asked again, by the way, you 2 come out together, this is too. Just after Lord Jinghai left the stronghold, we found someone sneaking in. It's a big deal. That mysterious person may have discovered Lord Jinghai's whereabouts, so we chased it out together, but we didn't find it. Danzo he shook his head and sighed, I didn't expect to find you. Mysterious man. Uzumaki frowned instantly. It's a master. Danzo continued, I've already considered moving the location of my base, it's not safe. Then my whereabouts are not also. Uzumaki said urgently. Danzo nodded. Beginning to the end, it was Danzo and Uzumaki who spoke in shock. Other Uzumaki ninjas naturally wouldn't speak because of their status, while Tsunade, Jiraiya, Orochimaru, and Hyuga Heian had no expressions on their faces. Luhan looked at Danzo a few more times, and then looked at Uzumaki Jinghai, with a burst of admiration in his heart. They, real movie stars. I have to admit that if Luhan hadn't been able to determine some situations before, he might have believed Danzo and Uzumaki's words. Let's see. Uzumaki thought for a moment in shock, and then quickly said, Lord Hokage, I'll disappear first, I'll go back and fight with the Legion. Prevent Kurigakure from getting into trouble. Okay. Danzo nodded. Let's go back and arrange the camp transfer. Don't let it go. Don't let it go. Danzo and Uzumaki Jinghai finally nodded to each other, and the 2 groups were about to leave. Lord Danzo, do you really believe what he said? A discordant voice suddenly appeared. It was Han Guang. Chapter 0356 It's all a play. Uzumaki, who had just turned around, paused in shock, then turned around to look at Danzo, Han Guang and the others, his face a little gloomy. Han Guang, what do you mean? Danzo glanced at Luhan, frowning deeply. I suspect that Uzumaki Jinghai is lying. How can there be such a coincidence? Our stronghold has just been discovered, and they just happened to meet the 7 people of the Mist Ninja. It is also unreasonable for them to dress up as Kurigakure Anbu ninjas. Luhan's eyes chilled. The words were addressed to Danzo, but his eyes were on Uzumaki Jinghai. He made no secret that he did not trust Uzumaki Jinghai at all. Before, he would call him Jinghai-sama, but now he calls Uzumaki Jinghai. The name. Hangguang, you can't talk nonsense. Danzo said heavily. Humph. Lu Leng snorted. I dare say, naturally I will take responsibility. Now I suspect that Uzumaki Jinghai has taken refuge in Kurigakure. Our stronghold was discovered, and he brought the mysterious man with him. This is no coincidence. Shut up. Danzo's face changed greatly, as if he could not believe that Han Guang dared to say such a thing. Do you know what you are talking about? Lord Jinghai, how can you slander? If you dare to talk nonsense, I will definitely report this matter to Lord Hokage, when the time comes. Lord Danzo. Lu Leng interrupted Danzo's words with a drink. His voice was much higher, and glanced at Danzo coldly. If you let him go today, what happened to him at sunrise? Don't blame me for not explaining clearly. Quote. Danzo got angry, and Han Guang contradicted him in front of so many people, making him lose face. Captain Hangguang. Uzumaki, who had been listening, suddenly spoke in shock, with a serious expression. I understand your feelings. I did something wrong before, which made you prejudiced against me, but you should also be clear about my relationship with Hiruzen. You say so. Lord Jinghai, I am sorry. Before Luhan could speak, Danzo said first, you can go on your way. I will report to Lord Hokage about the matter of Hangguang. He broke the relationship between Konoha and Uzushiogakure, and the culpability is extremely heavy. Lord Hokage will definitely punishment. After speaking, Danzo glared at Luhan fiercely. Danzo is obviously extremely dissatisfied with Luhan. Hey, Uzumaki sighed in shock, raised his hand and waved. That's it, Captain Hangwang, you will see people's hearts over time. Time will tell everything, and Mr. Danzo, you and Captain Hangwang are colleagues, both of Konoha's mainstay Jinchuriki column. Please don't cause conflicts because of me. Young man, growing up too fast, arrogant about his achievements, it should be beaten. Danzo said coldly. Luhan looked at Danzo again, his eyes flashed with cold and biting killing intent. Seeing Luhan's appearance, Danzo sneered in his eyes. They are. Uzumaki was shocked when he noticed the eyes of the two, and he was shocked. He felt that there was a contradiction between the two. This kind of contradiction was not established today, but existed before. It was an accumulation of resentment. Sir Danzo, goodbye. Uzumaki didn't want to waste any more time here, so he nodded to Danzo, then waved his hand and led him away. Luhan looked at the backs of Uzumaki Jinghai and the others leaving, and the dark color flashed in his eyes. Sudden, he moved. Boom. The ground was bursting by the giant force, and Luhan rushed out in an instant, heading straight for Uzumaki Jinghai and others. What a guts! Danzo's angry shout also sounded. Uzumaki Jinghai and others who had traveled more than 100 meters stopped at the same time, and they all turned around to look, only to see the cold light just rushed out, and Danzo followed, surpassing the cold light at a faster speed, and stopped in the cold light as soon as he turned around. In front of you. Immediately afterwards, Tsunade, Jiraiya, Orochimaru, Hyuga Heian and others all rushed out, jumping around the cold light, completely surrounding the cold light. Hangwang has put his hand on the handle of the knife at his waist. Lord Danzo, you have no right to control me. You have to figure out, only Lord Hokage can order me. Hangwang said in a low voice, his breath fluctuating. Humph, you're going to destroy the relationship between Konoha and Uzumaki. Ruin the overall situation. Leave you alone. I still have the right to kill you. Danzo's voice was full of chills. Danzo-sama, you, do-ent. Uzumaki was startled and had to make peace again. Lord Jinghai, let's go. We don't need you to intervene in the internal affairs of Konoha. Danzo said without knowing, his eyes fixed on Luhan, he was really angry. Then, hey, Uzumaki opened his mouth in shock, watching Konoha's 5-on-1 confrontation, and finally sighed. He didn't say anything, and led the people on the road again. This time no one wanted to stop them, and soon, they disappeared from the sight of Konoha and others. The confrontation situation has been maintained. Luhan observed the movement trajectories of the 16 Yuhi points on the insight map. After a while. Okay, Luhan said calmly. Luhan and Danzo turned around almost at the same time, and looked in the direction where Uzumaki Jinghai and others left. There's really something wrong with this guy. He just made up a lie to us about the encounter with the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. I really didn't expect. He may have really taken refuge in Kurigakure. Danzo sighed, but his eyes became colder. They left just now and stopped 2 kilometers away from us. Uzumaki Jinghai came back to observe us in person. Luhan said repeatedly, it is estimated that he believed in our conflict just now. Humph. I'll let him know what regret is. Danzo's mouth twitched. I'll send a letter to Rodan when I go back, and then. Well, when I get back to Konoha, I'll report more details to Lord Hokage. Luhan nodded and glanced at Danzo again. Plan was made by Danzo. Danzo changed his strategy and performed a play with Luhan. He had a more comprehensive consideration. If he directly pressed the question and then started, it would be no problem to win the Uzumaki 16 endurance with the strength of 6 people, but the key is that it is possible someone will run away. As long as one escapes and returns alive to report the news, the Uzushiogakure Legion will rebel immediately, and the situation in the country of Vortex will collapse completely. Naturally, Danzo couldn't let this happen, so he decided to stabilize Uzumaki's shop before making plans in secret. Luhan agreed with Danzo's plan. In fact, he was not in a hurry to get the first kill of the level 60 bronze boss. He was selfish, but he had to consider the overall situation. Although he didn't have a chance to kill Uzumaki Jinghai this time, there was definitely more to come. Next chance. For example, there will definitely be a beheading operation against Uzumaki Jinghai. Chapter 0357_casual. In fact, Danzo still can't be completely sure whether Uzumaki Jinghai really joined Kurigakure, or there are other conspiracies, because there is no substantive evidence, but one thing is certain, that is Uzumaki Jinghai already has a different heart. It is enough to know this. No matter what Uzumaki Jinghai wants to do, as long as he violates his covenant with Konoha, Konoha will kill him mercilessly. Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen, who can be called a generation of heroes, can't rub the sand in his eyes. At this time, Danzo has confirmed that there is a problem with Uzumaki's shocking sea. As the commander-in-chief of Konoha's army in the country of the vortex, he will naturally make the most appropriate arrangements. Defection. At dusk this day. On the southeastern border of the Fire Nation, Konoha Temporary Scout Base, in the command office. Small ad hoc meeting. I have sent a letter to Captain Rodan, and he will arrange it properly. Danzo sat behind the desk, resting his elbows on the edge of the table, clasped his hands together and held his chin, with a serious expression. There is still one question. Although we can take precautions in advance, if the Uzushiogakure Legion does defect, our troops will be cut in half. At that time, maybe we will not lose too much because of the Uzushiogakure Legion's defection, but compared with Kurigakure, it will definitely be more disadvantage. In front of the desk, there are two chairs. Hyuga Heian sat upright with a solemn expression. Luhan leaned forward, resting his right elbow on the armrest of the chair and pinching his eyebrows with his right hand, looking tired. Since Danzo and Hyuga have both seen his face, he is not wearing a mask here. This is indeed a big problem. The Vortex Country War has been fought for half a year, and our side has always been at a disadvantage. Hyuga Heian said, if the Uzushiogakure Legion really defected, then it would be really difficult. Lord Hokage's order is needed. Danzo replied, glancing at Hyuga Heian, if Lord Hokage can send another regular regiment, or an elite ninja brigade, we can eliminate our disadvantage, but... Danzo shook his head at the end. He was very clear, not to mention whether Sarutobi Hiruzen could send another legion over. Even if he could, there is no doubt that Kurigakure would definitely increase his troops. What's more, the possibility of Sarutobi Hiruzen sending troops again is very low. Although the country of Vortex is very important, it is secondary in comparison, and the problem of the country of Rain is the big problem. At present, the Konoha Garrison Corps has begun to deploy around Konoha Village, and several Konoha main battle corps have all been transferred to the northwest border of the Land of Fire. All they need is Hokage's order, and they will all invade the Land of Rain. Konoha isn't without ninja troops available, but those are reserves and can't move easily. Danzo has always been aware of Sarutobi Hiruzen's thoughts. No matter what, Sarutobi Hiruzen will not give up on the bottom line, even if the worst situation occurs, the big deal. Give up the country of the Vortex. It is impossible for Kurigakure to attack the country of Fire after conquering the country of Vortex in this short period of time. They are not so mad. Lord Danzo, I don't know. Uchiha Legion, how is it now? Hyuga Heian asked. The Uchiha Corps is actually the Konoha police force, just called it differently. Once the war period begins, the Konoha will enter a state of military administration, and the Garrison Corps will take over the duties of the Konoha police force, which will be changed to one of the special main battle corps, called the Uchiha Corps. Lord Hokage hasn't ordered the arrangement yet. Danzo said after a pause, then shook his head again. Impossible, Lord Hokage can't let Uchiha come to the country of Vortex. It's very troublesome. Hyuga Heian frowned. We managed to maintain the situation. I didn't expect Uzumaki Jinghai to have a problem, and I don't know what he thought. I'll make him regret it. Danzo said coldly. I am afraid. Hyuga Haeyang shook his head with a long tone. He looked extremely worried. Hangwang, what are your thoughts? Danzo looked at Lu Han and asked. Was always Danzo and Hyuga Haeyang who were talking, and Lu Han just kept pinching his eyebrows there, as if he was tired, and never said anything. My thoughts, Lu Han said softly, and finally opened his eyes, put his hand down on the armrest, and tapped it twice with his fingertips, to transfer 3 Anbu ninja squadrons to the country of Vortex, just can solve the problem. Quote. The 3 squadrons, with more than 100 people, are already the majority of the combat members of Konoha Anbu, and they can compete with a standard regiment. Lord Hokage probably won't agree. Danzo shook his head thinking about it. Anbu is the ace of Konoha, gathering most of the outstanding ninjas of the young and strong generation of Konoha. Anbu's use is not for frontal combat, but in the country of Vortex. I'm afraid no way. Then, the beheading operation. Lu Han immediately said again, the target is the high-level Uzumaki family, including Uzumaki Jinghai. As long as they are killed, there will be a fault in the command and dispatch of the Uzushiogakure Corps, and people will be in chaos. If beheaded action works, I can go. Lu Han sat crookedly on the chair, still looking a little lazy, and his tone was very casual. His suggestion did not seem to have been carefully considered, and the whole person seemed to be indifferent. In fact, Lu Han really doesn't care much about the situation in the Kingdom of Vortex now. Because he is about to leave the country of Vortex, he just waits for the order of Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen. It is hard to say whether he will come to the country of Vortex after that, and he doesn't bother to worry too much. The second ninja war recorded in the original book will take place in the world is starting to fight, and the main battlefield is in the country of Rain. Lu Han's thoughts have already flown to the country of Rain, and he thinks of Hanzo, the man who is respectfully called demigod. Beheading. Danzo seemed to be very tempted by Lu Han's proposal. His eyes narrowed slightly, his fingers tapped on the table subconsciously, and his brows slowly wrinkled. He has concerns. The decapitation mission, if it can be successful, is great, but if it fails, it means that Konoha will die, and the strong will die. Snapped. Door was suddenly pushed open, and Senju Nozomi stepped in quickly and said in a hurry, Sir. A letter of receipt from Lord Konoha Hokage. Come on. Lu Han suddenly regained his energy and sat up a lot at once. Chapter 0358_Dying Soon. Senju Shiwan, the team leader of Anbu codenamed Dogwan, walked quickly to the desk, handed the scroll to Danzo, and then turned around to say hello, Lord Hangwang, Lord Haeyang. Let's go first. Lu Han raised his hand. Yes. Senju Nozomi took the order and quickly backed out. Danzo unsealed the scroll and opened it. He glanced at the speed, his face changed slightly, and then he looked up at Lu Han and threw the scroll. Lu Han noticed the change in Danzo's expression, and frowned instantly, hold the scroll, look down. At the same time, Hyuga Haeyang obeys orders, Danzo said solemnly. Sir. Hyuga Haeyang quickly got up and looked at Danzo solemnly. According to Lord Hokage's order, I order you to lead the Konoha Independent Scout Force back to Konoha Village within 5 days. Danzo said quickly, you should prepare now and set off as soon as possible. Yes. Hyuga Haeyang took the lead, and Hand Seal disappeared into the office. The evacuation of the garrison troops is a very complicated matter. The first thing to do is to transfer the task. If the independent scout force leaves the country of the Vortex, then all the tasks that this force was responsible for before will be handed over to the Konoha gang led by Sarutobi Rodan. Core. This kind of thing can't be done right away. Sarutobi Hiruzen gave Hyuga Haeyang 5 days, but he was in a hurry. Lu Han looked down at the map, his face changed and changed. As Lu Han thought, Sarutobi Hiruzen's reply letter indeed ordered Hangwang to return to Konoha as soon as possible, and Tsunade, Jiraiya, and Orochimaru were going to go back together. Sarutobi Hiruzen did not recall Danzo, and wrote in the letter that he asked Danzo to arrange for someone to spread the news that Boiling Rain had died in battle. In addition to these, as well as the arrangements for the independent scout force, the reply letter also mentioned two extremely important things. First, information from the Land of Rain, the Ninja Legion of Omegakure Village in the Land of Rain and the Sunagakure Village Ninja Legion in the Land of Wind have joined forces to drive the Ninja Legion from Iwagakure Village in the Land of Earth out of the Land of Rain. At present, the Sunagakure Legion has arrived in the Land of Rain. The northeast border is stationed, and it may invade the Fire Nation at any time. Second, the wife of the first-generation Hokage Senju Hashirama, the first generation of Kyuubi, Nine-Tails Jinchuriki Column Force Uzumaki Mito, is about to die due to his advanced age. Sarutobi Hiruzen ordered Danzo to tell Uzumaki Jinghai, Uzumaki Mito is waiting for the return to heaven in the days. I miss the weakening Uzumaki clan very much. I hope to see Uzumaki, the current patriarch of the Uzumaki clan, shocked by the sea before he dies. Uzumaki Jinghai needs to go to Konoha village in the near future. Finally, Luhan was shocked when he saw the news that Uzumaki Mito was about to pass away. Uzumaki Mito is not mentioned much in the original book, but she is indispensable. She is Kyuubi, Nine-Tails Jinchuriki Column Force, has the power to completely control Kyuubi, Nine-Tails. Her strength is unimaginable, but no matter how powerful a ninja is, she can't escape the invasion of time, and she can't escape birth, old age, sickness and death. She is old and about to die, and it was her passing that made the Second Ninja World War really break out. Kyuubi, Nine-Tails, is Konoha's biggest hole card. In the words of Luhan's previous life, it was a strategic weapon, a nuclear bomb. There is no need to use it. As long as it exists, it can shock the quartet. The death of Uzumaki Mito means that Konoha has lost this trump card. No matter who the new generation of Kyuubi, Nine-Tails people, the Jinchuriki Column Force, will be impossible to control Kyuubi, Nine-Tails in a short period of time. Ability. For other ninja villages, Konoha is not so scary without the deterrence of Kyuubi, Nine-Tails. Go and tell Tsunade about Mito-sama's situation. Danzo looked at Luhan and said, you can't tell anyone about this situation except Tsunade, understand? Yeah. Luhan, who was looking at the scroll, nodded. Uzumaki Mito is Tsunade's grandmother, and Tsunade, as a granddaughter, should know about Akatsuki Uzumaki Mito's situation. Not to mention, Tsunade is Sarutobi Hiruzen's direct disciple, one of Sarutobi Hiruzen's most trusted people. Uzumaki Mito's affairs are hidden from anyone, can't hide from Tsunade. To be honest, as Luhan's position, he shouldn't know anything about Akatsuki Uzumaki Mito. Anbu's vice captain, after all, is only a vice captain, not a captain, and is not a high-level figure in Konoha. However, Danzo was very aware of Han Guang's position in Sarutobi Hiruzen's heart at this time, and believed in Han Guang's loyalty, so he gave the scroll directly to Luhan. He didn't think there was anything written on the scroll that needed to be concealed from Han Guang. Danzo didn't even think about it. We just sent out the information about Uzumaki's troubles, and the information hasn't reached Konoha yet. Lord Hokage doesn't know about Akatsuki. Luhan finally closed the scroll and raised his head. The news of Mito-sama's imminent death told Uzumaki Jinghai, and when Hokage-sama spreads the news again, I believe Hokage-sama will make arrangements. Yeah, Danzo nodded, that makes sense, then I'll suppress this matter first. After nightfall, the stronghold is in the Anbu training ground. The fire in the brazier was blazing, the vast and empty grotto was hazy, and in the center of the training ground, Tsunade, Jiraiya, and Orochimaru were fighting fiercely. Jiraiya and Orochimaru joined forces to attack Tsunade, using pure physical techniques. Attack. Tsunade is a medical ninja and a taijutsu ninja with strong melee skills, while Jiraiya and Orochimaru are both ninjas who are good at jutsu. Relatively speaking, they are not good at taijutsu, so in a 2-on-1 situation, Tsunade is always beaten by Tsunade. Suppressed. Call. At the entrance of the grotto in the training ground, Lu Han, wearing a black robe and a mask, appeared out of thin air. "Tsunade teacher," Lu Han called softly. The three people who were cross-handed on the field jumped away almost at the same time, keeping a distance from each other, all panting violently and looking back at Lu Han. Tsunade frowned slightly and said crisply, "What's the matter?" "It's very important. I want to talk to you alone," Lu Han said. Speaking alone, Tsunade's face changed slightly, her eyes blinked unnaturally. She was afraid of Lu Han now, afraid that Lu Han would mess up. "It's really important." Lu Han spread his hands helplessly, then glanced at Jiraiya and Orochimaru. "Master Jiraiya, Master Orochimaru, please. Can you leave here first?" Lu Han said it very politely. But in terms of his role as vice captain of Anbu, it was already the equivalent of an order. Chapter 0359_Back to Konoha. Konoha ninja in the country of the vortex, in terms of job level, is naturally Hokage assisting Danzo, followed by Anbu vice captain Han Guang and mixed army commander Sarutobi Rodan, while Tsunade, Jiraiya, Orochimaru have no clear positions. But their identities are special. According to the rules of Konoha's mission, Anbu has the highest priority, so Sarutobi Rodan cannot govern the Tsunade trio, but Danzo and Lu Han, to a certain extent, can issue orders to the Tsunade trio. Jiraiya and Orochimaru didn't say anything, they looked at each other and hand seal disappeared at the same time. Lu Han walked towards the practice ground. "Han, I haven't asked you to settle the account that day." Tsunade gave Lu Han a fierce expression and gestured with his fingers. "I warn you. Be careful." She was a little nervous, and Lu Han felt it. "It's serious business." Lu Han stopped in front of Tsunade, took off his mask, and looked serious. "What is it?" Tsunade asked. "I just got the reply letter from Lord Hokage." Lu Han paused before saying, "Master Uzumaki Mito is running out of time." "Huh." Tsunade was stunned for a moment, then his face changed dramatically, and he exclaimed, "What did you say?" Yuhi's eyes widened quickly. Tsunade didn't seem to hear what Lu Han said, but in fact he did. "It's just a little unbelievable." Lu Han said nothing, just looked at Tsunade. Tears gradually filled Tsunade's eyes, and an unconcealed sadness appeared on her delicate face. "Grandma Tsunade cried and covered her mouth. For Tsunade, Uzumaki Mito is one of the most important people in her life, along with his younger brother Naoki. His grandfather Senju Hashirama, known as the god of the ninja world, died before she was born, and her father died in the unrest after the First Ninja War. Tsunade was only 10 years old that year. His mother died shortly after giving birth to Naoki, more than 10 years ago. For Tsunade, Uzumaki Mito is her closest relative. And now, she's leaving." Tsunade bowed his head and wept. Lu Han took 2 steps forward, hugged Tsunade in his arms, and whispered in his ear, "Cry, I'm sorry." "Woo." Tsunade burst into tears, crying heartbreakingly. The empty cave hall was filled with unspeakable sadness. For a long time. Tsunade raised his head suddenly. Yuhi looked at Lu Han with tears in his eyes, and said excitedly, "I want to go back right away. According to Lord Hokage's order, you all have to go back, and so do I." Lu Han said quickly, "Let's go together. Immediately." 3 days later, at noon. The Land of Fire, Konoha Village. Hiroshi's building complex is connected one by one. It used to be the most prosperous village and town in the country of fire, and it is also one of the most noisy and lively villages and towns in the entire ninja world. Now, Konoha village has no previous prosperous hustle and bustle, and no one comes. When people approached the merchants, the whole village was shrouded in a chilling atmosphere. War has come. Outside Konoha village, southern forest. "Be careful, there is a situation. It's so fast, you're a master." On the edge of the forest not far from the entrance of the village, on a towering tree with luxuriant leaves, 2 Konoha garrison ninjas squatted on the branches of the tree, all looking to the south. They first heard the sound of the wind, and then saw the figure moving at a high speed. A total of 4 people. It seems. The slightly older ninja seemed to see who was coming, and stared, yes. On the crooked neck tree not far away. Call, 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 call. The whirlwind rolled up in turn, and 4 figures appeared out of thin air one after another. A beautiful woman with an expressionless face, a man with a strong figure, a man with a gloomy breath, and a mysterious man wearing a black robe and a mask. Huh, it's finally here. Lu Hanyao looked at Konoha village and let out a long breath. It has been more than a year since I came to this world, and after careful calculation, I have spent most of my time performing missions outside of Konoha village. Konoha, at this time, can already give Lu Han a sense of peace of mind. Go see the teacher first. Tsunade said calmly. See a few adults. 2 ninjas jumped down from the tree in front and knelt on one knee in unison. No respond. When the 2 raised their heads again, the 4 people on the tree had disappeared. Go and report to Lord Hokage. The older ninja looked to his side and said quickly, Tsunade, Jiraiya, Orochimaru. And that one, Lord Anbu, the 4 adults have just returned and have already entered the village. Inside Konoha village, Hokage building. When Lu Han and the other 4 reached the Hokage building, Sarutobi Hiruzen had already gotten the news that even Hatake Sakumo was in the office, standing beside Sarutobi Hiruzen. It's not that the speed of the 4 of them is slow, but that the 4 of them have been walking and stopping since they entered the village of Konoha. Looking at the changes in Konoha, Konoha has fully prepared for the battle, which is naturally very different from before. Teacher. Lord Hokage. The desk, the 4 of them greeted Sarutobi Hiruzen in unison. Okay, okay. Sarutobi Hiruzen smiled. He almost jumped up and laughed. He was very excited. Back, they all came back. Sarutobi Hiruzen's eyes slowly swept across the 4 of them, and finally fell on Lu Han. After a pause, he glanced at Tsunade, who was depressed, and knocked on the table. Hengguang stay, you all go first, to come and report to me in an hour. Yes. Tsunade, Jiraiya, and Orochimaru took the lead, while Hanseal disappeared in place. In fact, it's not that they can't report together. Although Lu Han is the deputy captain of Anbu, he doesn't need to remain mysterious in front of the Tsunade 3, and there's nothing he can't say. However, Sarutobi Hiruzen saw that Tsunade was thinking about Uzumaki Mito, so let the 3 of them leave first, and Tsunade would naturally go directly to see Uzumaki Mito. After the 3 of Tsunade left, Sarutobi Hiruzen stood up, walked around the desk, walked to Lu Han, looked at Lu Han, and walked around Lu Han again. His eyes were always on Lu Han, as if he was examining Lu Han's change. Lord Hokage, he seems to have grown taller again. Hatake Sakumo, who was standing by the chair behind the desk, laughed. It's amazing observation, because Lu Han has only grown a little bit taller. Chapter 0360_C Individual. Han, how old are you this year? Asked Sarutobi Hiruzen, who was behind Lu Han again. 13 years old. Lu Han stood straight. In 3 more months, he will be 14 years old. Well, 13 years old, good. Sarutobi Hiruzen paced and muttered, not knowing what he was thinking. He walked around to Lu Han again, took a look, then walked back to his seat and sat down. Boy, you is dead. Sarutobi Hiruzen looked at Lu Han and asked cautiously, are you sure? Actually, Lu Han has a lot of things to report. However, what Sarutobi Hiruzen cares most about is Bo Yu's life and death. He knows very well that the 2nd generation of Mizukage Ghost Lantern Moon has passed the peak of middle age, and because of the injuries left by the battle when he was young, his strength has begun to decline. Maybe in a few years, the position of Mizukage will pass Boiling Rain. Boiling Rain is a genius, and for Konoha, it is naturally a scourge, and it is naturally excellent to die. Boiling Rain. We saw him being burned to ashes with our own eyes, but... Lu Han shook his head. I have a very strange feeling that something seemed to happen before he died, but because the flames covered him line of sight, I can't see it. and also, the beheading sword he used in the previous battle is gone. So I suspect that he may not be dead. Isn't it dead? Sarutobi Hiruzen put his hand on the table and tapped the table subconsciously with his fingertips. According to Luhan, Sarutobi Hiruzen couldn't be sure whether Boiling Rain was alive or dead. As far as I know, someone in Kurigakure can summon 7 special ninja knives. If Boiling Rain dies in battle, then the beheading sword should be summoned directly. This doesn't seem to be enough to infer Boiling Rain's life and death. Hatake Sakumo spoke up. The person who can summon the ninja sword may also be Boyu himself. Sarutobi Hiruzen said, his fingers hitting the table stopped for a while, then looked up at Luhan. I received the information you sent 3 days ago, do you think? Quote. Uzumaki Jinghai has betrayed, Luhan said firmly. Well, Sarutobi Hiruzen nodded, his face gloomy, and said, let's not talk about this, let me report on your situation during this time. Yes, Luhan nodded. The things that Luhan wants to report are roughly divided into the following parts. The first is to kill Munashi Ghost 7, the second is to encounter and rescue Tsunade, the third is to encounter Orochimaru and discuss the rescue of Hyuga Heian, and the fourth is rescue Hyuga Heian, and the fifth is to fight Boiling Rain and Mundo Anna. Time flies. Luhan reported several things in order, but he didn't talk about them in detail, because things were very complicated. If he talked about the battle process again, he couldn't finish it in a day. Luhan only gave general information. Of course, there are some things that need special mention. For example, when killing Munashi Ghost 7, Luhan said that he used the powerful Rasengan. In fact, at that time he was not yet Master LV9 Ultimate Rasengan. He used all his strength and used Shikatsumiku, Dead Bone Pulse, and Sharingan to win the Munashi Ghost 7, but Luhan can't say that he is Master Sharingan and Shikatsumiku, Dead Bone Pulse, so it can only be said that it is a powerful Rasengan. For others, Rasengan was created by Luhan. The advantage of the self-created technique is that it can be improved rapidly, and others cannot question it. As for killing Mundogen, Luhan also specifically mentioned the use of tactics. Just tell the truth. To kill Mundogen, Luhan mainly used LV9 Ultimate Rasengan and the technique of Hiraishin. As for killing Boiling Yu, there is not much to say. In fact, in that battle, Luhan's contribution was not great. Although he completed the final blow, in general, Hyuga Heian and Orochimaru did not have much credit. Small, they consumed the chakra of Boiling Rain and made Boiling Rain use the forbidden technique again and again, and the biggest credit goes to Senju Senluo. Senju Senluo is a lunatic, and has a huge amount of chakra, and he can fly. He is not a Boiling Rain opponent in a single fight, but as long as there are a few cooperation with similar strength and a little restraint, then he can bring Boiling Rain again and again. A fatal threat. Luhan was able to kill Boiling Yu in the end, and he also cooperated with Senju Senluo. Luhan reported for 2 hours. In the end, I was able to kill Boiling Rain because of tactical cooperation with Senluo, because Boiling Rain hated Senluo very much, so he took advantage of this to lead Boiling Rain to the sky. On Senluo, I suddenly appeared beside Senluo and made a surprise attack on Boiling Rain. Okay, I know all this. Sarutobi Hiruzen interrupted Luhan's words. Senluo has already reported this to me after he came back. You are doing very well. Sarutobi Hiruzen finished, pinching the beard on his chin, revealing pensive expression. No one knew what Sarutobi Hiruzen was thinking. The office was quiet for a while, and Hatake Sakumo stayed with him all the time without saying much. When did you become Hiraishin? Sarutobi Hiruzen looked at Luhan and said again. Just before I met Orochimaru. Luhan continued, actually, I didn't really master the Hiraishin technique. That time, I was lucky enough to get the Hiraishin technique on Kuwu. After that, I tried many times. I couldn't succeed, and until now, I only have a kunai with Hiraishin spells, and I can't exert the true power of Hiraishin. Well, it's already good. Sarutobi Hiruzen nodded. In fact, he was very shocked, and this was not because he had just learned about Luhan's Master Hiraishin, when Senju Senluo returned to Konoha to report to him a few days earlier, he had already said Luhan's Master Hiraishin the thing, Sarutobi Hiruzen is to be mentally prepared. Lord Hokage, I need a retreat. Luhan said actively, I'm not sure how long this retreat will take. I will use this retreat to completely master the technique of Master Hiraishin. Okay. Sarutobi Hiruzen simply nodded, paused and then tilted his head to look at Hatake Sakumo. White Fang, you go first. Yes. Hatake Sakumo respectfully accepted the order, and nodded to Luhan again, and then Hand-Seal disappeared into the room. Go. Sarutobi Hiruzen got up immediately, looked at Luhan and said, I'll take you to meet someone. Okay. Luhan took the lead first, then hesitantly said, yes. You should be able to guess. Sarutobi Hiruzen said solemnly. Luhan was stunned for a moment, and then a light flashed in his eyes. It's Uzumaki Mito.